course
just
not.
check that it's
That was an
linked
invisible
up.
drum roll.
There you go.
Drum roll. Okay, and it looks like we're live. All right, 25 viewers waiting, 11 likes. Good stuff. It's just connecting now. All right, everyone, can you hear us? Is everything going good? This is the first time I've used StreamYard, so I haven't paid for it yet, as you can tell by the logo up in the corner. But it appears to be working, so just let us know in the chat if all is well. We've got Alex on his birthday up here, so say happy birthday to Alex, everyone. We've got Six, who's the mainstay of the channel, another local Sydney boy, and we've got, everyone knows the famous Lyle right here.
I mean, we could probably do the Brady Bunch thing. It was like,
Oh, yeah.
So which one
You
of
got
us is
it out
Alice
the
then?
Hollywood Squares, yeah. Which one's Alice? Over here.
You're Alice.
That's my slave. That's my slave working in the background here. We've got Michelle knocking together some of the Marshall JCM 2000 replacement boards. She's actually really enjoying it. So score, because I wasn't.
That's how Fender did things for like the first 40 years of existence. So you know.
now Marshall do it in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, well, I just had someone slagging, "Oh, Fender's made in Mexico. It can't be good." I'm like, people sure pay extra for the ones that say Lupe on them. So,
Yeah.
let's dial back the racism a little bit, people.
The classic
Fender
line is
Mexico- Sorry.
the classic line is the only difference between a Fender made in Mexico and a Fender made in America is the location of the Mexicans who are making it. They're good at what they do. The machinery is there.
They will build anything you ask them to build.
Exactly.
And if you ask them to build shit,
Well, it's a bit like China, getting stuff made in China. China, there's good and bad China. China will do whatever you want them to do, but if you don't specify things, you will get the cheapest option. So
Like
I'm going to experiment with some getting these assembled. I'm going to do a small batch because they offer JLC PCB, who I use, offer assembly services. So I'm going to try it out. What's there to lose? I give them the bill of materials. They're locked into those part numbers. If they don't have any part numbers, I'm going to require them to get in touch with me to find out what substitutes they're allowed to use, blah, blah, blah. Let's just try it out and see what happens. But if you don't specify stuff, you will get, like, say you're producing a guitar pedal. They will use whatever they've got left over from another job. If it meets the value and the voltage rating, you're getting that part. Even
or
if it's the wrong
at least
part.
the value.
Yeah, maybe the value. So if you don't specify to the wire every single specification, they will just run their own show, basically. So
Well, it's kind of like you guys have played one of the Chinese-made ding walls. They're like $4,500-$5,000 instruments made in China, and my God, they are spectacular. They are so well made because they've basically gone to the factory. You do it to this level, to this quality. This is the contract. All the rest of that, and the factory's like, okay, cool. It's where a product is made is less important these days than the company behind it and the spec that they're saying it has to be done to.
My camera is going through my 4K card, which is going into a MacBook, which is going through the router, which is all that stuff is made in China to a very high spec.
made in China.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sony, Apple, it's all Chinese manufacturer, but they're very stringent in their requirements, and therefore I'm here looking okay. If I don't look okay, it's not their fault. That's on me. I need to get on my bike.
I mean, Australia is good at making things like Hills hoist or a rotary mower, but that was about it. Our car industry is pretty much over. Yeah, we invented the mower, didn't we?
Yeah, the Victor. Yep, Victor down in Melbourne.
Yeah, Victor.
I mean, looking back,
it wasn't a rotary, but
yeah, it was.
It's a bit like the wheel. Eventually, someone else would have figured it out. I mean, come on.
It was rotary as in it spun around that way instead of like the traditional barrel type one that sliced like that.
Oh, yeah.
Which is weird because like the rotary one makes more logical sense. Like, how did they come up with the complex like barrel one beforehand? Like,
because you could push it, and it was a simple mechanism where you could have the helical blades sitting directly on the ground, and they would cut against the front element there. That's what allowed it. So you were literally pushing it. That's why. And then when they had motors small enough to add to them, you literally just added a belt to it. There you go. It's that kind of thing.
That's how the RX started with Mazda anyway.
The RX, the rotary.
The Vanco.
There's one of the workers around here or something has one of them, and you hear it try and do a burnout every couple of days, and it sounds like it's about to blow up.
Yeah,
I call it dickhead o'clock. 3:30. That's when, because most tradies work from 7 a.m. till 3:30 p.m. So 3:45 or 3:35 is when all the fucking burnouts happen up the street from all the 20-year-old tradesmen trying to show off.
When I was in high school, the whole joke was whenever you heard like a Subaru with like the big massive exhaust on there, or you heard a rotary and all the rest of that, you listen to it and you can just all you can hear is bro.
Yeah.
Except it was in a specific accent, but you know.
We've got Frankie missing the festivities. He's busy, but he's sending his best wishes. Bloody legend, Frankie. Everyone jump on his channel too, if you can. He puts a lot of effort into his videos, and I know what kind of time that takes. So, what a legend. But he couldn't be here with us today. He sent his best wishes. We've got Simon here. That's unreal, Brad. Totally deserved. It's just a little excuse to have a party. 10,000 subs is no biggie. It doesn't really make a difference to anything. But it took a long time to get here, to be honest. It's sort of... I was watching Lyle's channel, and it was sort of ticking away, and then it just exploded. So something about Lyle's channel, the algorithm liked, whereas this one's just been a sort of more organic, slow, linear sort of climb. But at least
have you considered sucking less?
Well, I could suck more. Maybe I'll get more views. And we've got Jason here from First Notification. How you going, legend?
Hey, Jace.
Hey, guys.
Looking very dark and mysterious down there, mate.
Oh, mate.
What's going on? Are you hungover? You got all the blinds shut.
You got to hide. Yeah, well, man, because if I open that up at the back of this room
you get
here,
smashed.
It's just a silhouette.
Whitewash.
Yeah.
It's probably better. Probably an improvement, actually.
So what have you been up to, Jace?
Oh, mate. I don't know. Where do I start?
Busy boy?
I'm pretty busy, yeah. Like, I don't know, man. It's like this freaking 7 days a week, this caper, isn't it? I'm sure you guys...
Oh, absolutely. Well, here we are. Well, we're in the shop.
I could use an eighth.
An eighth, yeah. No thanks.
Yeah, correct.
7's too much.
Yeah.
So I've got Michelle back behind me assembling. She's my little slave today. I was using her as a slave yesterday, and then I realised it was International Women's Day. I felt kind of bad about that.
Well, mate, I'm the same, right? I'm the same. So Kath has become very skilled in the workshop.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, cool. Is she doing board assembly?
Yeah, 100%. Soldering. So I'll she doesn't build amps, but she'll do all the prep work, right? So by the time I get to put an amp together, I'm normally working with boards that are fully populated and
awesome.
soldered. Right? So
look,
sure working that, man.
Absolutely,
so many hours. Just lead forming, dude. Like, my God.
Oh, man. It takes... When you told me that you were doing all those FYM boards, I was like, man, respect. That's a...
You don't know what you're getting into.
I think I'm out of it,
Jason.
No, we know what you're getting into.
Oh yeah, man. I've been there. It's like 2 a.m. and you're bending 400 diodes, and each one has to be the same. And you just go through and binge watch every show you've already watched 10 times, so that you can kind of halfway be in the show, halfway be focused, but you're not missing anything. And time is meaningless, and life is diodes.
This is where...
And then it's resistors.
Yeah.
When you get to the caps, you're like, I'm almost there, because you work from the shortest stuff highest, so that when you flip the board, it all stays in place.
When you put these big ass 2 large reservoir caps in,
there you go.
That's when
you do
the
a dance.
Hits.
Yeah.
So I've left the valve sockets out at the moment. So we're doing a run of, total run, 80 boards.
That's insane.
So Yeah, so a bit of time in that, but they are selling. They are starting to move. I've got pre-orders open at the moment, and we've got to get them tested and shipped first, and then the rest go into stock, and then I'll start promoting them. I haven't really tried to make any waves about them yet because I wanted a decent, healthy stock beforehand so I can ship instantly. But yeah, the pre-orders have helped and helped fund lots of massive boxes turning up from Mouser. But yeah, it is a bit of a
Let me know your bubble wrap count.
Yeah, it is a bit of an exercise in what it takes to build shit, because I would eventually like to start building some amps too. So this is sort of a poking the hornet's nest with a stick sort of deal, and seeing how badly I get stung.
Well, in a perfect world, you could just offer the board, and everyone would know exactly how to populate it properly. And if they made a mistake, they would never blame you or say it's a piece of blah blah blah.
That is the current thing. Yeah, so you guys know about this, Alex and Jace in particular. I am toying with the idea of releasing them. I have sold one unpopulated board, and it is within my interest because all I've got to do is order the things and dispatch them, right? But you've got to make sure the documentation is right. The one that I sold went to a trusted tech. He chose his own components, populated it, no problems, and he praised the thing and said it was awesome. But if you're releasing him to the general public, my God, what a minefield that would be.
Yeah, well, man, I can tell you, I can give you some insights into what that's like.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask. Okay, so basically, you set up a forum on Facebook group, Evolve DIY group, which is a smart way of doing it, because then everyone who is successful in it helps each other out instead of leaning directly on you. So how is that going?
It's really, that was a game changer for sure.
It's probably the only way
and
it's possible.
Combining that group with what Alex had already started as well. So now there must be 3,000 people in that group.
3,000 up to.
I think so, something like that. Of which probably, there's probably 20 guys that are actually in there and can answer questions.
Probably 2,000 of them are bots, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to attack you one day. They're going to
probably
turn on
bots
you.
that you set up, Alex, to make the group popular.
Independence Day.
Yeah, but man, I remember having this moment, and I remember it was January, it was Christmas holidays. I remember that, and God, it must have been at least 3-4 years ago, and I just answered yet another email from someone asking about one of the DIY boards, and it's the same question over and over and over again. You get variations on it, but generally it was the same thing. And I'm thinking, what? This is crazy. I'm answering the same question again and again, and only one person gets to see the answer.
Yeah, a lot of work there.
Yeah, so it kind of like the obvious thing was like, create a group. And then you just got to be relentless in terms of telling people to go to the group and post their question there, because questions will still come to you on email all the time. And I just go, look, with all respect, please post the question in the group. Everyone will jump in. I will jump in as well, right, and do my best to help. The only problem occurs, of course, because you do get, there is a fair contingent of the population that just aren't and won't go on Facebook.
Yeah, and that's getting a lot more intense now with all the political shit going on. A lot of people are dumping Facebook in general, so that's when we've got to start looking at maybe an independent forum website.
Forums.
Yeah, look, I wonder whether, is a Discord server? I've put this out there before, and everyone, genuinely, people come back and go, no, keep it on Facebook. But,
I reckon
audio amps, back in the day, Usenet. I'm the only one old. I think Alex might be old enough to use Usenet. Jace, you're the same age. You just look better. Fuck you. But yeah.
I IQ, mate.
What about Reddit? Like a subreddit or something? Is that,
oh God.
Reddit's pretty hectic these days, I think. It's sort of it's a constant moving target. I think Discord's probably your best option, but again, it's not the easiest thing to get your head around if you're not used to it. Whereas an actual forum, everyone's kind of used to them because they've been around for so long. Like, a lot of gear guys are on the gear page or whatever. There are a few tech-based ones I'm on that aren't public, but we could probably use the engine that they used and base it. You can even link it to make it integrated in your website, Jason, which might be an option to look into.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But then you've got to build up that post history.
I mean, there's
and
a
stuff.
few. I don't know if you guys go on those old forums anymore. Like, you know, the stuff that I learned a lot on, you know, the Amp Garage, obviously slow clone forums. You know, slow clone forums was a big thing back in the day. It's still, I wouldn't call it active. It's certainly still going, but I don't know. Like Facebook still seems to be. I don't know. Look, I'd be surprised the number of people that have actually created accounts just to get into that group. It's quite surprising.
Yeah,
because I think just through sheer desperation, right? If you can't, you're sitting there with this DIY project and you just got this, you know, you've turned it on and there's no sound, which is a common experience for a first-time build.
We need to help people migrate away from Facebook, giving them somewhere else that they can go to, like it used to be in the good old days of the internet. That's great. The less people on there. I mean, I barely go on the platform these days because I jump on my feed and it's like the 3 groups I'm a part of that you guys are a part of as well. It's like we can't. I see nothing from them. I have to manually go to those pages to see anything. Otherwise, my feed is just filled with AI stuff.
Hot singles in your area. Blah blah blah.
I wish I got.
All I get is.
What are you guys watching? Like trying to find to get that kind of shit?
I don't even go on
get any of
Facebook,
that.
but maybe once a month to check something like in a group or whatever. And it's there. And I've tried to game the algorithm. I would do things like, you know, is it following what I search? So, okay, let's try this. Shampoo bottles. Just type shampoo bottles 100 times in text. I don't get any ads for that. You know, the algorithm's weird. You know, I tried to find a way to, it would like show me like art from museums around the world. Nothing, but just.
Oh, but that's educational. That won't happen.
Hot political. Bad politics and taking advantage of lonely men, because I'm still single on my Facebook profile because it's no one's business.
Yeah, right.
And so it's sad.
I go through eras. It seems to go through eras of feeding you just slop, and then all of a sudden it stops doing that, and you see all your friends' stuff, and then the next.
Oh, it's
day
so hard to
back
say. I just want to see what my friends have posted in the sequence that they have posted. So newest, you know, to oldest. And nothing else, but that's the hardest thing. It used to be that you had to like click 8 buttons. Now you got to hold your mouth just right and click your heels 3 times. And
do you want to know? Do you want to know? It was actually Mark Uzansky that told me this. If you're on because Facebook is just a necessary evil for me. I'm the same. I actually don't follow any people. Like I follow groups and musical artists and bands and and guitar gear manufacturers or whatever, right? Companies. But of the 1,000 people who are my friends, of which I only know 5, and you guys, I don't follow them. I don't want to know what they had for breakfast that morning or whatever. Fuck that.
Why not?
But anyway, what
I had banana bread. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Was that
I don't eat breakfast, so
you know, on your feed here, right? Like if that's your main page or whatever, if you click on the bottom right where your little icon is, and then you get these shortcuts here, which is like friends and groups, and so there's one called feeds. If you click on feeds, then at the top you've got these filters, and you can actually just click on groups, and it only shows you posts from groups that you're subscribed to.
Plus a healthy dose of ads.
This was a hallelujah moment for me. I was like, oh my God, this is like, all of a sudden I
just
can
deleted all the apps.
The sooner that they use the app protocol to like create a Facebook replacement, that'll be amazing one day.
So that's the one that Blue Sky runs on?
Yeah, so the underpinnings of that, someone's already started working on it. They've just made a Instagram clone as well on the same platform.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah. Problem is, there's a lot of traction required. Like I'm on Blue Sky, I'll post something on Facebook, I'll get like, I don't know, 50 likes. I'll post something on Blue Sky and maybe 1, 2. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, the issue is that when a platform becomes widespread enough that it's kind of useful, it's then got all the shit that comes with it. So
Well, that's right. I mean, eventually Blue Sky's going to figure out, oh, we actually want to start making money. So then it'll just end up another Facebook.
Well, if you look at the bandwidth that a successful site takes up, you have to pay for that. Yeah. There are just better. Facebook used to have better ways of paying for that than they do currently. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I mean, if you were to create a server for amp forum discussions, on whose dime? How's it going to get paid for? Subscription, blah, blah, blah. You know, and what, you know, because the quality of the server is the quality of the content, you know. So I understand, and it's always been a deal I've been happy to make to an extent in terms of, all right, this is free, but the cost of that is I get ads. But they're just getting so crass, and I keep getting, it's so hard to just see the content that I want. It's not worth it.
Michelle says hi, everyone.
Hi, there's Michelle.
Get back to work.
You're not the boss of me.
So Lyle's got his coffee fairy, but unfortunately I'm in charge of the coffee production. So
it's in the valves.
Well, Michelle's got a coffee fairy too then.
Yeah, she's got a coffee fairy. I'm your coffee fairy.
More of a coffee leprechaun.
Yeah, I was going to say leprechaun. Maybe one of the, what are they, the little dudes out of Lord of the Rings? I'm like Gimli or whatever.
I was going to say Oompa Loompas, but that's
you're more of a dwarf than a hobbit, yes.
Dwarf, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, God, mental blank.
Yes.
So it looks like we may not even hit the 10,000 subscribers during this live stream. Is anyone watching that's not subscribed? We're sitting 30 away. Surely we can click over.
Well, it depends on if you have your live set to subs only.
The chat,
the comments,
anyway.
you mean?
Yeah, to add a comment, and that's
Oh, hang on.
stream setting in YouTube.
Yeah, let me just have a look. Well, I do that to keep out the sex bots, you know.
I buzzed this morning, Ringo Pig. I had a beard when I woke up, but it was kind of scraggly looking. So
yeah, you got to grow a beard, Lyle. Come on, pick up your game, son.
I have done. It just itches.
That could be the underground name of
now.
this UM site.
I don't know how Brad can even do it. It's like too much.
Live chat replay. Oh no, participation mode. Anyone, and we haven't got any sex bots. So there we go. So where are we sitting with subs? We've actually gone backwards too.
maybe it's the four beards.
Oh,
is that when I join the stream, Brad? Everyone's like, fuck that. I'm out.
Maybe.
Maybe that's the reason why the New York Yankees wouldn't allow people to have beards on the team until very, very recently.
Why? Because they scare everyone off.
Exactly.
So, Jace, I wanted to ask you also about your little teaser that you put up. I think it was an Instagram story on the P1 rack.
Yeah.
The Alta preamp, essentially.
Yeah. Yep.
Is that directly like an Alta minus the output section? Or are there some other modifications?
Yes, it was. But it's that was the first prototype. Second prototype, which I've got running now, and is kind of like is the basis upon which this thing will go into production. You know, when I say production,
Okay.
I mean hand built by me, but you know.
Yeah.
Production.
Are we talking MIDI control still?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So the whole thing started. The whole thing started with a call that I got maybe 9 months ago, something like that.
Right.
And it was Bob Strakel actually called me. So Bob is the front of house sound engineer for Slipknot.
Right.
And Bob's become a really good friend of mine. Actually, he's an amp builder, so pretty easy to connect with him. When he's not on tour, he runs a workshop back home where he services amps, does mods, builds his own stuff. Mainly kind of like the stuff that he does himself is kind of based around the train wreck stuff.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, like Bob's always up for a chat. We speak quite regularly, and he likes to talk about tube amps and music and shit like that. So anyway, he called me and said, look, the guys are putting together lighter weight fly rigs. So Jim had three Alta 100s. Well, two Alta 100s and one Alta 50. So he had two in his live rigs, and then he had one at home, the 50 watt at home. And anyway, so Bob's like, the guys are putting together these lighter weight rigs for when they do, tours out of the US mainly, and they've just come through Australia, right? Fest was in Sydney last night. They were here in Melbourne the week before, and they're doing 4 dates in Australia, I think. So they're kind of in and out, right? And so he said, look, Jim's got a quad cortex thing going, and anyone who's watched Jim Root's rig rundowns that he posted in December, well, he didn't post, but he was interviewed in December, and then they were posted on YouTube. So Anderton's did one, and some other UK-based channel, I can't remember the name, but they showed what they were using in the backline for that tour again. So it's like a European tour outside of the US. So they took their lightweight rigs. He's using a quad cortex based rig, and he doesn't love it. It's kind of works and it's okay. So anyway, Bob called me and said, "Could you build Jim an Alta preamp?" And which hadn't.
I can build anything.
The idea of doing a preamp hadn't entered my mind at all. Like there was just that was not in the product roadmap. And
rack is back, babe.
Yeah, rack is back. So of course, when you get it, when you get asked a question like that, I obviously considered it seriously, and of course I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." Yeah. So I started.
I'm pretty sure if he asked me to build something, I would be like, "Okay."
Yeah, I was like, of course, like you go, yeah,
figure it out.
Yeah, you kind of go, let's think about what it would be. So then I started connecting with Brad. Brad Clifford is Jim's guitar tech and has been with him for about 6 or so years.
Right.
And I know Brad. I mean, I met him when they came here 2 years ago, and that whole connection first happened. And again, he's just awesome, right? Brad's so easy to work with and just super nice. So he said, yeah. Look, what we want is basically the preamp out of the amplifier. And then I said to him, would traditional normal TRS style channel switching be okay? And he said, really want MIDI?
The MIDI. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh fuck. So then
You've already got it, yeah.
I know, but it just became it changes how you, like the front panel. All of a sudden, you've got momentary switches and LEDs and stuff to have to consider, because you can't look at a toggle switch and see how it's set. You've got to, you've got to have other visual indicators, and so it just drags a whole lot of infrastructure with it, Yeah,
and your Alta is actually wider than 19 inches too, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I had to completely. So I took the whole preamp, the whole schematic for the preamp, and literally verbatim, and I changed channel 1 because he favors a channel 1 in the amp is a 2 gain stage and cathode follower plexi style clean. And when you crank the gain on it, it'll get crunchy as
Right.
He wanted a blackface style
Fender
gain stage plate driven tone stack
and the Marshall drive.
Yeah. So which is actually easier, right? Because it's you only need two stages for that.
Yeah.
So I could throw a whole 12 AX7 out of the thing and build it with 3 preamp tubes rather than 4. So I had to completely redo all of the printed circuit boards. Like there was nothing that I could use from the amplifier. Circuit was obviously, I didn't have to kind of go about designing the sounds other than doing channel 1 again. So anyway, he got that preamp, and it's in one of his rigs, the fly rig.
Oh, he's got one already.
He got it in October last year.
Okay,
somewhere around there.
Cool.
And
I thought
then,
it was still in development.
Well, it kind of is, right? Because then I went on to phase 2 of this thing. So very, very long answer to your question, and I apologize, but it's
quite all right.
In version 1, you get me talking about the stuff, I fucking won't shut up. That's
what we're here for, mate.
In version 1 of the preamp, it's just so you come out of the tone stack. So think of just the gain channels, all the clean channels, right? You come out of the tone stack and the gain channel, or out of the recovery. I call it the recovery stage, post tone stack in the Fender style clean. Comes into a relay, obviously, right? So you can toggle between those two things. Then it hits an LND 150 based loop.
Right.
The LND,
Similar to the LND modules.
You know, the one that everyone uses. So that preamp has a send and return, and I'm also using that return stage to basically drive the output. Okay. You know, so when it comes out of the return stage, this is in version 1 of the preamp. It would then basically, it was a stereo effects loop, so it's mono send, stereo return, and then you'd have 2 outs, and you could run it as dual mono or stereo if you had something
defaults. Defaults to mono. Yep.
Yeah, and so that was all cool, right? Obviously, no PI or any of that kind of rubbish that's needed. But then the more I thought about it, the more I was keen to figure out how I could integrate some kind of digital back end into it so you could take it straight to front of house.
Right, so like an IR. Right.
Power amp. Well, you need power amp sim and IR, you know. And obviously, some inspiration / envy from what you're seeing for the the IRX pedal and all that kind of stuff, right? And I mean, there's some great stuff that's coming out of the boutique amps. I think the kind of the hybrid, I call it the hybrid world, analog front end with a digital back end. So you kind of like you can use those devices in a number of different scenarios. You can just use the tube pre and run it into a tube power amp externally if you want, like they did in the old days, or you can go straight to front of house with it, or a mixture. Actually, you could use the digital sim to feed front of house and still have a tube driven cab on stage if you want. To
get that feel and the feed.
Can I ask you a devil's advocate question?
Sure.
Why do you have an effects loop in a preamp? Why not just have the preamp out and they can put the effects in between that and a power stage or whatever IR stuff if they have a cab modeler, if they have power amp and cab modeler?
Yeah, it's a valid question, Lyle, and I asked myself this absolutely, because main reason is because the preamp, I believe the preamp needs to be able to deliver a line level signal. Not always, but it needs to be able to do instrumental line level output. And a lot of pedals won't handle line level. So the idea with the loop is to buffer it down to.
So you're doing a send and then makeup gain. Okay.
Exactly.
Level matching, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I guess that way you've always got your output, especially when you're dealing with front of house. They just know where to plug in, away they go. Are you doing like transformer isolated outputs on that, or?
Well, yeah. So this fast forward to where I am now, and I got an introduction to the guys at 2 Notes.
2 Notes, yes.
Late last year.
So they do the Captor and the
Captor X, the Cab-M, the Opus thing is their new thing. They've got they're really big on the software plugins and all that as well now, right? So you can they've got this thing called Genome, which is a pure software version of all the stuff that they do. So anyway, they sell these embedded boards. Right. I've got one floating around here somewhere. No.
I have one of their original VB101s. I've had it for 15 years.
What is that? VB101?
Yeah, that was their very first product, which was their first IR loader, power amp simulator, all that kind of jazz. I had it in my home studio because that was back when I was still using amps and that. And because I could also use, because it had power amp emulation on it as well, I could have my rack pre's above it. So I still had my 88 MP1 and I could run it straight into that. And it sounded like typo negative.
Well, Jason, I need to bend your ear at some point in the next couple of weeks. I'm looking at various IR load options on the market, Sir, Freyet, etc.
Yep.
Because I've got a Marshall Major here, and I'm in a 10 by 14 room. I'm I'm not testing that at full tilt here. So for certain amps on the channel, I need to get something that I've already got a whole bunch of Yorkville IRs and stuff. So I want to talk to you about what I should get for my needs that won't blow shit up.
Yeah, there's look, just on that, I think the Sir reactive load is the best sounding one on the market, in my opinion.
I want to get me one of them, big time.
That's on my short list. I was also going to talk to John, but I figured I'd talk to you first because you've used a lot of them, and you don't have a financial incentive to steer me in one direction or another.
Look, it just does one. It does, well, they've got the IR loader now, right? So I had the original one with the non-IR, and then I ended up selling it and getting the one with the IR. Which I don't really use the IR loader in it. I just use it for the reactive load. The reactive load in terms of, I believe that the impedance curve that the amp sees, and then therefore how the amp responds to it and how it feels when you're playing it and so on, it's the best.
I've got Martin Reed here. He was bringing us all back down to earth. Wasn't it a lot easier when it was just a guitar into an amp? Great music was being made, maybe a couple of effects, and that was it.
well, the trouble with that, Martin, is that Pete Townsend did that, and now Pete Townsend can't hear anything. Eric Clapton did that, and Eric Clapton's deaf as a post, hence his signature amps that sound terrible. You know,
and let's not forget, right, that you hear the demos of those original songs and they sound mid. Once you add in the producer, the engineers that work all of that magic, and people actually like crafting it, like, then it becomes something. It was never just, here's a guitar into an amp, here's the band, we're done. There is so much on the back end that gets done to make those songs amazing, unless you're Freddie Mercury. It's the only exception.
It is really amazing if you go back and listen to like the Beatles outtakes, take two, or the Stones in general. Like the Beatles, the song would come in and you hear the early versions. It's like that's not going anywhere. How did they even hear something in that? By take 17, it's a Beatles track, and it's like wow. Whereas the Stones, they'll do something 180 times and sound like the world's worst bar band. And who's never even met each other, and then all of a sudden, that last take, there it is Brown Sugar, and the whole thing just feels awesome. But getting to the awesome,
And let's not forget that most of these bands, especially throughout that time, they had songwriters in the background as well. They weren't just doing their own thing, and that there was always someone there tweaking. You know, they weren't always on the record liners because of the way the deals work. They'd get their money, but they wouldn't get the recognition. But it was a whole industry to create those things.
Maybe
not so much on the Beatles, but there was a lot of stuff, uncredited stuff on Zeppelin and the Stones.
And Kiss, which never did their own thing.
if you hear a guitar isolated from like a Led Zeppelin recording, it sounds fucking terrible, but it sounds awesome in the context of the mix. So a lot of these people are trying to get the guitar sound that doesn't exist. Like they're creating, they're trying to get a finished mix sound
every time.
When really, we'll plug into a deluxe and a speaker with a tear in the fucking cone.
This is the thing, Brad. I've noticed this. So I'm very aware of it because it's a sales and marketing dynamic in the world that I'm selling to, which is that there's this whole community of bedroom players is probably unfair, right? But guys that mainly play at home. Hey, Dave.
Hey, Bo. How you going,
I was wondering when you were going to turn up, man.
I had a client that came, right?
Yeah.
When I
bloody clients always spoiling our fun.
Yeah.
But they're building these
came early.
What's that, man?
Luckily, the client came early. So
that's good.
Excellent. That happens to. So here you can get nasal spray for that.
It's Saturday for you anyway, so it's you think you'd be at work anyway on Saturday, wouldn't you?
Of course.
Yeah.
We were just lamenting it's a 7 day a week job.
I think it's more than 7 days a week.
That's what we were saying.
It sure seems like it's 14
We're
days
already
a
talking
week.
about the Beatles as well.
Exactly.
Fuck.
Sorry to derail that, Jace. Yeah, you were talking.
Oh no, I was just saying. So there's this thing, and I'm sure we're all aware of it, right? Where I wouldn't even call it a trend, right? It's just happening, which is that these guys want these guitar sounds that are so big in their breadth and width and the bottom end because they only play the guitar by itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it has to fill all frequencies and all dimensions. And when you put that into a mix with a bass player and a drummer with a kick drum and all the rest of it, it's just not going to work, you know? So when you hear these guitar sounds that work beautifully in the mix by themselves, just like you said, Brad, you kind of go, it's all MIDI, and where's the bottom end? And so
when I had the studio, right, I used to have in the collection of audiophiles, guys would come in and I'd start doing the thing and recording, and they're like, "Oh, that sounds like shit," and I'm like, "Dude, it's going to sound good in the mix." "Oh, but no, take a listen to this," and I'd pull up stems or things from other bands because obviously Guitar Hero came out not long beforehand, and you had the isolated tracks. So I'd put on like, okay, here's the isolated guitar track from this. Do you hear that? Do you hear there's nothing below this frequency or above that? And you hear how it is? That is in the mix. Now we bring everything in, and it's like when someone walks in and they go, "I want this guitar tone from this player." It's like, okay, cool. Are you going to record it like them and put it in there and have the mics and have the amps and that? Or do you just want to sound good in a room?
Yeah.
Which one do you want?
I've had to start producing the guitar audio on my channel a little bit just to optimize it for YouTube playback with a little bit of compression and a limiter just so I don't get any clipping. But you know, I don't make any EQ changes or anything. Just a little bit of compression to offset the fact that everyone's listening on their goddamn phones. But when I used to just do pure honest stuff. This is an SM57 on a G12 right up in the sweet spot. Most people are not used to hearing that, and they say that's the worst guitar sound I've ever heard in my life. And I'm like, well, every audio engineer would hear that and say, yeah, I can totally work with that. That's going to sound awesome.
Yeah.
I
But
haven't seen my channel yet.
I've had to balance the reality versus the expectation, and I'm going a little more towards the expectation without lying. But people have to trust me on that.
It's like, can you use your iPhone?
Yeah, right.
Your ears do compress as well, like when you're in a room.
Oh yeah.
There's a very specific name for that phenomenon, which is why, like, you turn it up past a certain point.
Fletcher Munson, yeah.
That's the one, yeah.
Plus, our ears distort and compress. So if I record it and amp really well, really well, well, even a Princeton's 85 dB in the room, and you're listening back on your iPhone, you're not getting any of that acoustically or your physiology isn't reacting. You got to play it back through really good speakers at least 85 dB to hear what that amp would have sounded like. People don't do that, except the guy next to me on the bus who always does at 90 dB minimum. So. Or the car next to us, which is at 130 dB, and the woofer is making all their bolts fall out.
We get that everywhere. I think it's a global phenomenon.
I've actually had to push, well, for testing purposes, like an SLO sort of circuit above 6 on the master volume.
Yep.
Just to see like how it reacts with the room. Well, it doesn't react
and
well.
See that everything comes into play. The speakers compress as well. You know, it's just it's good fun, isn't it? There's so many variables. Why couldn't we just be in IT or something?
Yeah, because that's so easy. No thanks.
So, Dave, what are you working on this week?
Me?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, you.
There's like 100 amps here, I think.
Just like mods?
They all came at once. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
It's luckily I got some of them out, but
was that a few clients with a lot of amps, or just a lot of clients?
No, a lot of different people from all over the world.
Yep.
Not to mention then the normal work like rigs that we're building or Friedman-oriented work and stuff. So it's been bad.
Not enough hours in the day. Do you how do you control the job intake? Do you just sort of feel it out, or do you have like a duty cycle thing? Like I try to open for repairs for the first week of every month, and then if I get overwhelmed, I cut it off for the rest of the month and open it up for the first week of the next.
It's a little willy-nilly. I'll when I realized I've taken too much in, then I'm like, all right, no, I can't take that right now. Hit me back in a month or something because otherwise it's going to sit here and then they're going to get mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get mad.
They do.
Get mad. And,
They get very mad.
Hey, man,
I'm
no
working
rush
on
on this. But is it ready yet?
is it ready
Try
yet?
working on a vintage synths where you're spending 6 months trying to find a single part for the thing, and it's
finding
just
the
sitting on
part.
the shelf. Yeah, and then you find the part, and it's like, oh, $250, and yet the customer's like, oh, but what do you mean? It's like, if you've repaired it and sold it, you would get $8,000 for this thing, and you're complaining about a $250 part that you had to wait 6 months for.
You get that with amps too. Like someone will bring you an amp that's worth like $8,000 on the second-hand market, but they won't want to buy a new set of valves. It's like, dude, what do you want?
Of course they won't.
anyone that says that there's no hurry with an amp, it's
red
always the
flag.
guys 3 days later.
Yeah.
3 days later, email.
Just
Oh, yeah, no,
checking in, man.
fix it.
How's
Don't
it
worry about
going
the
with my
price.
amp?
No, I just want it
That-
done.
you know
Don't
what
worry
they
about the
say in
price.
Australia? In Australia, they ring up and say, "How's it traveling?" That's like,
How's it travelling?
People, it's not traveling anywhere, bro.
Mate, it's completely
Where you
stationary.
left it.
Well, here that's a good question because I got half the stuff I have at an almost done state, but I need like 3 more things, and the post office isn't offering any tracking on it at the moment. So it gets here when it gets here. I have no idea how it's traveling, but I hope that it is. That's all I got.
Yeah, well,
it's not on me.
I think they have
Call
in
your
their
congressman.
heads that. I think they have in their heads that you've got your like their amp on your bench and like it's
the
like
only-
open
Oh my God, yeah.
and you're working on it.
Yeah.
But there's 100 any given time. I've got somewhere between 50 to 100 jobs of varying levels of complexity. Some are just servicing, some are full rebuilds. I don't do anything with it until it's up to its point, like in the queue. So they're like, "Oh, how's it progressing?" It's like it hasn't progressed. It's progressing in the queue, but it's not progressing in the work taking place.
For me,
yeah.
when an app comes in, as soon as I can, because I already have something on the bench whenever something comes in. I have things that I already are ahead of it in the queue. But when it gets to the bench, I open it up, I diagnose it, I see what it needs. I'll do the initial video on it for the owner, and I'll say, all right, we need to get filter caps. You've got microphonic 656s, and your speaker needs to be reconed or whatever. They approve that. I'll order everything. It goes to the side until all those parts arrive.
Yeah.
And people were like, well, you started my app and then you finished 10 other apps before I heard anything else. Well, yeah. Because they were ahead of you, but I was waiting for parts for them when I did your first part. It's like people are spoiled by car dealerships because in car dealership, they have 30 guys on staff. They've got a warehouse in town in most major cities. They can get everything within a day.
Exactly. I was talking about that this week. So we've got a place out here called Repco, and they have all these little hatchback cars that you see them ripping around the city all day long. And as soon as a car comes in, it needs a clutch. They ring Repco. It's there 20 minutes later. We can't do that, especially in Australia.
Yeah.
Oh, God,
But yeah,
no.
Mark, TK's good to see you, TK, by the way. Guitar and amp repair. The most frustrating thing for me is when it's in a rush.
Hey,
they ring
man,
it
I'm going to need a few weeks to
3
get
months.
some money together. This is the same guy as is ready yet. I'll be back in just a little bit, guys.
Yep.
Or they just ghost you. Straight
So-
up ghost you.
It's like like a box will come. Someone I get boxes all the time, every day. They stack up. And I don't even know what's in them yet. and the guy's calling. So how's my amp?
Like,
I don't know. Is
Who
your
are you?
amp here? Well, it says it was dropped off there. Is it okay? I don't know. I haven't opened it yet,
Or they'll just
and I'm not
say,
going to
"Oh, it's-
open it yet till I'm ready to do it.
It's Chris. What did you find? And who? What? Chris? Have you got a guitar, an amp? Well, give us a bit of background, bro.
Oh no! This happens in emails to me all the time.
Oh yeah.
It's crackling.
Who
That's
are
like
you?
almost the whole email. It's making crackling noises.
Do they
So
usually
the first
follow
thing
it up
that
with
dawns, I look in the subject line, I look around the email, and I'm like,
You got to do detective work to find out who it even is.
nothing at
See,
all. So
I'm surprised they don't follow it up with the classic question that I always seem to get. It's crackling. How much is it going to cost for me to repair, and how long is it going to take you to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or humming.
Well,
it
no.
could literally be anything.
here's the thing that has to be defined, though, for people. There's humming. There's crackling. There's hiss.
Yeah.
and I whatever else.
Buzz.
So
it's noisy.
Buzz, right. So I go,
Yeah.
buzz goes like bzz. Crackling is like Rice Krispies, you know. Hiss sounds like just white noise, you know. Hum sounds like this. They often interchange all those definitions. They interchange, you know, they're saying, yeah, it's hissing a lot. And they show me a video and it's humming. I'm like, no, it's humming.
It's
Oh,
oscillating.
no.
No,
Like-
that's not it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you
my
just
dog,
have to,
my
like-
dog goes and hides under the bed every time I turn it on. Well, I think you're oscillating.
Yeah.
Or it could just be the bad playing.
Yeah, it
What's-
could be
what's
bad
worse
playing
is
too.
in
That I cannot fix.
emails when you're trying to find like there's no power going to these tubes, and you have to like figure out what
They're
they've
not lighting
done
up.
wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, I've just changed all the tubes in the amp and it didn't solve the problem and it's still making the thing. Okay,
Yeah.
so you've just
Could have
spent all
brought
that
it
money
here.
for nothing.
How many
Fluke, Jack?
people trying to self-diagnose by spending $100, $150, $200 or whatever on a whole new set of tubes
Oh,
Yeah.
completely pointlessly?
all the time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All
It's
the
just
time.
All
like
the time.
people that are selling tubes, man. They just like they just laugh them
rubbing
away
their
at the
hands
bank.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
like, don't buy the preamp tubes, okay? Unless it's one's
Just
dead.
Yeah.
Don't buy
Yeah.
any preamp tubes. You want to retube the amp,
Don't buy
okay?
the
Just get the
gold-plated
power
ones.
tubes. Chances are your preamp tubes are fine, most likely, unless they're
9
microphonic
times
or
out of
whatever.
10, yeah.
But yeah, they do that all the time. That's why I always they first thing they do, they have a problem with an amp, they go to the Friedman user
Oh
forum.
yeah, I love that.
And then like 100 people try to diagnose the problem.
All
Oh, it's
incorrectly.
a tube. It's a preamp tube. It's this. It's that.
All signs point to you're an idiot.
Oh,
What was that?
yeah.
What was that classic line
No.
from
All you
House?
need to do is
It's
squirt a
never
little
lupus.
contact cleaner in the effects loop jack. You'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Or
Dave,
WD-40.
We were talking before about the effectiveness of Facebook and whether we're sick of it or not. That is one of the reasons why I go on Facebook, is to read those threads in your user group and wait, and then finally you respond, and I'm like, yeah, because it's like they're just hilarious. Like the stuff
No,
Yeah.
it's not that. No, it's not
Every
this.
single
I
time
find so
someone's going to-
frustrating. Sorry, I'm sorry, Six.
It's all good. Every single time someone is going to chirp in with, it's the transformer. It's almost
always one, eh?
never the fucking transformer.
I
Unless
honestly-
it's a JCM 900.
Sometimes it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
But
that's,
those
that's when I
pictures-
send them to Alex.
pretty
Depends on
rare.
the amp.
What
So
I
Alex
see
got three
on some of the larger forums is when guys like Dave get on there and they get argued with. It happens to John
Bruce
Sir an
gets all
awful
the
lot
time.
because John doesn't use his own name. He posts as a serious something or no, sorry, that's Yogs. Anyway, John's got his nom de guerre. But
Husky.
people will ask about Husky. People will ask him about a Sir amp. He'll say, "Here is the gospel," and they'll say, "Well, no, actually, my brother-in-law says."
Bruce cops it on even it's Bruce Egnator. It says it right there. For starters, everyone spells his name with an O, which
Yep.
must really piss him
Egnator.
off. And then they tell him how wrong he is, and it's like, dude, don't argue with.
Don't
All right,
argue with
guys,
Bruce.
we've got to get Six a noise gate, okay? Because listen when he comes in.
He's muted.
Wait for it. There it is.
Hey, he's got his fan on. You know why that is? Because his air conditioning blew up, and his landlord's refusing to fix it.
Oh, fucking hell. I'm sorry.
So he's sweating his little man boobs off out in Sydney.
Little.
Well, I was listening to you guys. I was listening to you guys while I was off the chat, and this is not to any of you. You all know this, but to everyone out there watching, this is a 66 vibroverb.
I was going to ask you about that.
Initial diagnosis was one of the speakers was bad. I can push on the cone. The voice coil is just sounds like
Rubbing.
crunches. The reverb tank was bad. It had really microphonic output tubes, and it had leaking original filter caps. So all that's been changed, and that's layer one of the onion. All that has been changed, and now I can hear what problems exist beyond that. So
Yeah.
it's not like how much does it take or how long will it take. I had to do all that to get to the point where I can say, okay, now there's a little bit of rushing water. Let me see if it's DC on the board, if it's a bad old carbon comp, or it's also got old RCA preamp tubes, any one of which could be contributing to that. When I first put it in the cab and sealed it back up, the tremolo was not ticking. Now the tremolo is ticking. Tremolo tick sometimes takes a few hours to exhibit. And I'm letting this thing run. This is on its 4th hour after I finished the work that I knew I absolutely had to do. It's not going home until it's ready. I don't know what it's going to take. Probably not much more, but more. And people don't understand that. But they want.
This is why
they want the Cadillac treatment, but they want I say Chevy prices are Daewoo prices.
What would that be out here?
My caps are generally like, I don't know if you can
Well,
see
for
that.
us, it'd be like the MG prices.
MG.
MG prices on a GMSV, Silverado taste.
The Honda gets pricing.
Alex, I'm sorry. We have a no cap policy here.
Well, I'm not wearing one.
We don't recap.
You're so hip. Okay.
I probably should wear one. I'm blowing out the lens with my bald head. All you fuckers have got hair. How come?
I was actually thinking about it for myself though. So.
How are you all amp techs and you haven't gone bald? What the fuck? You mustn't be working hard enough.
Dave's got Superman's dad's hair, so I'm really jealous.
Superman dad's hair.
Superman's dad's hair.
Okay.
I would say Jor-El, but you wouldn't know who that is. So
Is that something we need to look up? Wow.
Now I don't. I need to look it up.
From the '78 movie, Marlon Brando had your hair.
Oh,
It's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing.
No,
That can't be. He's a stylish man.
Yeah.
That was such a good movie.
I'll take it.
I did have a mohawk at one point. It was funny walking down the street because when I had hair, I used to have shoulder length red hair.
Of course you did.
Then I decided to cut it off when I went to the pub once, my local bar that I was at every weekend. This is when I was like, I don't know, 18, 20. And this guy cracked onto me and grabbed my ass because he thought I was a chick.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you had all that, you would have been on that Disney movie, wasn't it? Oh, what's that?
You should have seen his face when I turned around. He was quite distraught. So that's when I decided I had to go. But I did have a mohawk for a short amount of time after that. And it was funny. You'd walk down the street and you'd see people cross the street to get away from you as you're walking down because they thought I was some lunatic.
Yep.
Yeah, it was
That's
good.
Perfect. Good. Get away from me.
Yeah, I think everyone should have a mohawk at least once.
This is what we need.
I did. I did 12 years
You can
ago.
still have one.
I could do it very easily. I was wearing a very similar jacket to this, and I needed a Halloween costume.
Oh, taxi driver.
And so I just gave myself a quick mohawk and put on some sunglasses, and people were looking at me.
De Niro.
That is the taxi driver look, isn't it, Brett?
Yep,
Yeah.
that's it.
That jacket
when
with a
I
mohawk.
got rid of my dreads, I decided I was going to be a funny bastard, and I cut them all off. But I left the back ones there, so I had to droll it.
Oh,
Drullet. He looked like the guy from.
I had to droll it for about an hour, and my missus hated it.
What band was that? Drowning Pool or something had that. One of those new metal
Seven
bands
Dust.
had the Seven Dust. Was it Seven Dust? No, he had the full on drill.
Seven does. Yeah.
in Australia, did you guys have the thing when you're kids? It's like a guy's face. You could get it at like the dime store, and it had iron filings and a pen. You could make different mustaches.
Yep.
So
Wacky
when
faces
I
and
do buzz, sometimes I forget, and I have facial hair. It never looks great. It looks kind of like sixes. And I'll come out of the bathroom, and I'll give myself mutton chops, or I'll give myself like this, like I'm an Austrian general from 1870 here, and I surprise Nikki with it. She never knows what I'm gonna come out of the bathroom with, and then I go back and remove it. But it's great, Mr. Fuzzy Face, Mr. Woolly Face, whatever it was. I do that just to get her. Oh,
I used to shave.
a fun tip.
Sorry.
Go get a Q-tip and cut it off so that only like that much is left, and you put it in your ear, and you go to your significant other and say, "Hey, honey, is it supposed to go in this deep? It kind of feels funny," and it's beautiful.
There's nothing between my ears, so that'd probably work. But all I've got to do to look like a Chechen warlord is just shave my mustache off. But then, yeah, I'll probably be on some sort of watch
I
list
don't know.
after that.
I'd probably say put a hat on you, and you'd look more like you go, "Oh, good afternoon, there, English."
Yeah, Amish or something.
I think you should
Yeah.
just shave.
What the hell was that, Six?
I think you should
That was
shave,
me being half tired.
shave the whole beard, but keep a nice 70s mustache. I think we should go.
Yeah,
for that.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
just
That'll
the
be
I reckon
big-
if you get a mohawk, you can
big
do the whole
handlebar
Vivian
spread.
from Young
Yeah.
Ones thing.
You
The
got to do the
James-
classic Aussie legend, the
Hetfield.
Merv Hughes. You got to do the
Merv
you got to do
Hughes.
the Merv.
With the Merv Hughes.
Well,
or
we
the
have a
Dipper.
thing over here. I don't know if you guys have it in the States, but we have a thing called Movember out here where on the first day of November, you got to start freshly shaved and then you got to grow a mustache and see how quickly it grows, and that raises money for charity and stuff. But yeah, anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. Carrying on.
I don't think I could stand it.
You always win. You always win November, Brad.
We talked about 1 year years ago doing that for NAM. Everyone at the NAM booth had to grow like some insane mustache, like you could grow it before NAM, and then everyone shows up with this crazy 70s like orange mustache.
Porno stash.
It would have
you
been
can't
really
go
funny
wrong.
if any of us actually
Free
followed
mustache
through.
rides at the Friedman booth.
Free mustache rides.
So you've got to do that if you come up with like a 70s style wah to launch. Just have everyone there in
Yeah.
the booth with the big fat like things, just playing the greatest 70s like tribute to John Holmes.
That's committing to the bit.
Yep.
So
Would've
you
been
were
good.
at NAM again, weren't you, Dave?
Yes.
Did you had a stand, yeah?
Oh yes.
Yeah, cool.
Talked
How did
to
it all go?
10,000 people,
Does it?
and I didn't get
It must
sick.
be draining. Oh,
It's
you
not
didn't
so
get-
draining if you drink the entire time.
Oh, is that the key? Is it?
Yes. So
You
if
got to be semi-drunk.
if you have if you're slightly drunk the entire, maybe not totally drunk, but slightly drunk the entire NAM show during the day, it makes it much
then it's
easier
okay.
to do.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. When did you discover
Probably
this?
do that all right.
Several years ago.
Okay. So it wasn't very fun before that, I take it.
No, you know what? Come to think of it, I always drank at NAM, but
Oh, God.
Yeah, no, you got to come.
Oh, fuck, I'd love to, mate. But
We went through. We had 9 bottles of high-end booze in our little office,
oof.
and our crew went through 9 bottles before Saturday.
Oh. Shit. Okay.
Wow.
That's why I said.
Well,
you
we
guys,
gave
we're
some
gonna
out
go, we're
too,
gonna
of
go
course,
one
to
time.
people that came and visited and stuff. So that
See that's why I don't
Yeah.
go to NAM anymore. I don't really drink, and so I just get the full effect of every instrument in the world being played at the same time in a goddamn what's the word I'm looking for? Convention center. It's
Yeah.
yes, it's like
This is the
Guitar
thing,
Center.
Dave. I text you, I think, on maybe the end of the third day. To
Uh-huh.
the end of the show, whatever. On the next day, I was just looking it up because I wanted to quote exactly what your reply was. So I said, you must be shattered from 3 days at NAM, and this was Dave's reply. He says, I hate guitars, amps, and people.
Yes. Yes.
That's the best.
And that's
reply
normally
ever.
how you feel by the end of it.
Yeah.
It's like I never want to talk to anyone else again. I never
I'm done with
want
all
to
that
see a
noise.
guitar again. I never want to hear an amp again, especially one of mine.
That's like a weekly
do you have-
thing for everyone, right?
Huh?
A weekly
Like a
thing, yeah.
weekly thing for everyone. Especially after
I've got to admit, it is affecting
email.
my desire to play. At the end of the week, I really don't want to play guitar, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's a bit like going for a walk or a run or a bike ride. You don't want to start it, but then I try to remind myself when I'm out there walking, I make a mental note. I'm enjoying this. This is good. Remember this bit, not getting off my ass to go and do it, because when you're actually doing it, it's good. So you see the guitar there and you're like, what am I going to do? You feel like you should structure some kind of thing to get better. You sit down, 2 minutes later, you're enjoying yourself, but it feels like a chore at the start. And that's because you've been setting up 50 guitars a week. And yeah, it's once you're into it, it's good.
Yeah. Well, sometimes
play much,
things
Dave?
inspire you, though. You've made something, or you worked on an amp, or you know, and you plug it in, and you're like, wow, this sounds great, and then you get this kind of excitement to play it for a while.
Well, I actually got that feeling very much so when I finished building the there he goes, the Dirty Shirley, the Cranky Karen.
Oh yeah.
That's my bad.
That is my sound. That is exactly that's exactly the sound that I like. A little bit darker. Yeah, it's perfect.
Great.
So that made me sit down and practice. You actually got my ass in a chair and started practicing. So that's half the battle.
That's a lot better than me.
So how often do you play roughly, Dave?
Huh?
How often do you play roughly? And like what sort of context?
Every day when I'm testing things.
Yeah.
And again, if you're getting a little inspired, sometimes you'll play a little longer.
Yeah. Well, that's the sign to me. I'll be testing an amp and I'll realize 20 minutes have passed and I'm still playing it. So that means I like the amp pretty much. Either that or I'm trying to
there are certain amps that really, really are great, and I will go to do a playing demo of it, and I realize I can't use most of it because I'm just noodling, because I'm just, hey, wow, this does this and this does this, and I love that because I forget that I'm being a tech. I'm not in the technical, critical, observational mode. I'm just actually being a guitarist again, which makes for terrible videos, but I'm like, well, that was actually fun.
That's absolutely the test, right? When you're working on a mod or a circuit or whatever, or even restoring a vintage amp, when you're no longer reaching for the knobs, you don't feel compelled to like, oh, I've got to just, and you're just playing. You realize 20 minutes is gone. You go, oh, it's done.
It's zen-like. You're at
hold on, guys. This something doesn't happen nearly enough on YouTube. We've got an Eddie Hazel fan out there. John Hogg, shout out to you there with your maggot brain practice. Keep on it. That's awesome.
Nice. Maggot brain.
Still, yeah. I've kind of mastered the art of not actually sort of playing much these days, because all of my stuff's in storage and that, and when I'm doing a lot of testing, I've got the guitar beside me here, which is, I do use it when I have to and that, but most of the time, I end up using this thing. I've got it loaded up with all of the riffs and things, with guitars, with basses, with all that kind of stuff. And then when I need to do a torture test, I can literally just have this thing looping, and it just plays all the right stuff, so I can make sure everything's all working. And then, but then there are times where it's like I hear an amp, and I go, oh. I pick up a guitar, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, cool.
Have a go.
Give that a go.
It's a lot better than hitting your ears with 1 kilohertz.
Well, I've got like 50 loops that local pros have made, and some guys have sent in that I can load into this Ditto, and it's cool.
Find one of these,
but
it's well worth it.
The output of the Ditto pedal and the output of most digital pedals out there has a level of white noise that plugging directly does not. Yeah. And it drives me nuts. My iPhone doesn't have white noise. My iPhone, the audio is a fucking afterthought. The only reason these things exist, and most digital delays out there, the only reason they exist is to make sound, and they all have a high noise floor. Why?
I think it's the DC conversion they use.
When you put any kind of digital thing in front of a high gain preamp. So, Dave, you've experienced this, I know.
Well, I mean, yes, some are better than others, though.
I'll hear it into a clean Fender on 2.
Yeah,
you know, it doesn't have to be in front of an Ubershaw.
Yeah, it's.
Let's not talk
but you're right. The looper pedals are especially noisy.
They are.
It drives me nuts, because it would have been so useful if this thing were just quiet. And they, in theory, hire engineers who work with their creative consultants, and they're all musicians. How is it that these products get released and then we discover, oh, this thing's really noisy? Shouldn't that have been like step 1 in the prototyping? Dave, I've played your amps. They're all quiet.
Hey, you know, some people will disagree, but yeah. I mean, let me rephrase.
You know what I mean?
They hiss because they have gain.
Right.
They are quiet.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a difference.
The average person
well, you know what I mean,
will hear
Dave.
something and go, oh no, this is normally acceptable, which is why so many people come and see techs like us and go, I want to, it just needs a basic service, whatever, and you listen to it and it's going, This thing is just having major issues because the average player, they're not cognizant of those things. They're not like listening with a critical ear. Like maybe their exposure to gear is like not normal, and then they're not like as wide, so they think that is the norm. Whereas we've heard everything, we've seen stuff, we've designed things, so we kind of have that understanding of kind of what's acceptable and what's not.
It's a bit like guitar setups. Like the amount of people that come in here, just after a restring, I'm like, dude, your action's like 3 millimeters at the 12th fret. Like, I think we better do a setup and service. And they're like, oh, really? You reckon it needs it? And then they get it back.
You mean
when they sit down and play it, they're like, holy fuck. They're like, I can't believe I didn't do this earlier, you know? They thought it was them that was the problem. And it turns out it was the guitar holding them back. But they can do really good bar chords.
Left hand like a vice.
Slightly out of tune.
Yeah, that's right.
You should have a box full of slides, Brad. So if they refuse to,
there you go.
do the setup, just hand them a slide and say, you need to play with one of those.
There you go.
On the other hand, he's got a store, which means he would have people trying to play slide for the first time through an app in his vicinity. So I don't advise that.
I'm a masochist. It's all good.
Beginning slide and beginning violin, should not be done around humanity.
We've got Andy PH here. He's donated $20. Thank you, Andy. 9 squares for Brady Bunch. I think I'm limited to the amount of people I can have on because I haven't pulled out my wallet and paid for StreamYard yet. This is the first time I've used it, so I'm just trying it out. It is pretty good. I think I will end up going down that road because I do want to do some interviews this year with people, local producers. A lot of these guys are sort of unknown, but you hear 3 songs on the radio mixed by them in a row at any given day, and I go and play trivia with them on the weekend, so why not? Other amp techs, I want to get Carlo on here from Ignite Amps. I'd like to have an interview with Parko from Casanova Solutions. I want to get Bruce on here as well. I'd like to do a actual interview with you, Dave, as well. I want this year to be the year of networking, sort of, because as things get a bit tougher to survive in this industry, I'd like to maintain our little network. And being a tech, it can get a bit lonely, I guess, at times. So it's good that we can lean on each other and help each other out. So this will be the year of networking, and I think StreamYard is looking pretty promising for that. And I know you guys use it on Tone Talk too, so that's what made me try it out. Yeah, so far all signs are good.
Yeah, it works really well. There's nothing really wrong with it.
Pretty much bulletproof, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it seems bulletproof at this point. Yeah, for us. I mean, we pay for for Tone Talk, but
I think I'll be doing that. I don't mind paying for anything if it's useful. It just shits me when you pay for stuff like
stuff works with the paid version. I think doesn't it?
The what? Sorry,
the live chat.
Yeah, it's. I'm currently using it on the free version. Yeah, so we're using the free version right now, and it's fully
everything. I think other than you get the watermark, their logo thing. So
the watermark goes away. You can record. There's a bunch of other features that they hold back. But yeah, it's pretty good for a free solution so far.
It's actually pretty good, Brad. Even having it as a video platform when doing calls and stuff offline.
Yeah, right. Okay, so like using it like a Zoom equivalent.
100%.
Yeah, because Zoom's a bit clunky, eh?
Yeah, Jason and I do that all the time.
Yeah.
And you don't have
like
this. The guest doesn't need to have it installed. They can just click the link and away you go.
Yeah, well, I get the same stuff with Ecamm, but that's Mac only. It's like $300 a year, totally worth it, pays for itself.
Yep.
But I'm doing this in Log, and I've got a LUT loaded, and I'm running my audio through Logic, and it's all going through Ecamm, and then that becomes a virtual cam and a virtual mic that, in this case, StreamYard is seeing. So I can control my colors, my audio, I can have the gates and all that fun stuff.
Is Ecamm, I don't know about that, Lyle. Is that a bit like the OBS thing, or like what?
It's like it's like OBS that works. And it doesn't crash.
I tried that, man.
That's consistent. It's only for Mac, but it's fantastic. I'm using a program called Loopback, which takes the output of Logic, where I've got a noise issue thing. I've got a background noise suppressor. I've got a little EQ and compressor, a limiter on my voice, and I've got I can blend in channels. If I had a guitar amp with a mic on it and the amp didn't have reverb, I can add reverb and delay and stuff in software, all in real time. And then that all goes out into the input of Ecamm, and then the Ecamm outputs, audio and visual, can go to this. They can go to FaceTime. They can go to Zoom, et cetera, et cetera.
Sounds complicated.
I'm a complicated guy.
I mean, like, it sounds really complicated. The one thing I've learned over time with this, sometimes the easiest thing is the best. With like,
once you get it set up, it is easy. But getting it set up can be tricky. It depends. Some guys like this stuff, and some guys don't. I like this stuff. But Dave, I want to apologize to you. I had you on my interview last year, and I had not gotten everything set up right, and there was a weird delay, and I talked over you a lot, and I interrupted you a lot, and I did not mean to.
Oh, okay.
Anyway. Okay, well,
nobody cares except those weirdos on the internet leaving stupid comments.
Well, they left a lot, but at the same time, I watched it back. I'm like, I could have handled that better, but there was a lag thing. I forgot all the results.
I remember that, Kyle. Lyle, sorry,
Kyle. You are a commenter. You called him Kyle.
Because I speak to a guy called Kyle all the time, and you can guess who it is.
KSR.
KSR. Sorry, Lyle. I watched that stream. I remember that, and it was fine, man.
I don't even. Yeah, I didn't even think. You're bringing it up now, and I'm like, what?
Well, just in case you were, just in case you would file that away as, oh, that guy interrupted me a lot. Yeah.
What an asshole.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm accused of interrupting people all the time. So.
I just realized I did a boomer thing as well, and you don't see the chat when you're in full screen mode.
That's why you couldn't see the chat, right?
Okay, boomer.
Yeah, no, it's
now
there.
I feel like a fucking idiot, don't I?
Well, you know.
Hey, Frankie boy's here.
Hey, Frankie. Where is he? He's back.
He's in the chat.
There he is. There's a facial hair imbalance. Rearrange the squares. Frankie. Have you heard about Frank, Dave?
No, I don't know who this is.
Forgotten Gear Restorations. He's in
California,
I think.
Oh,
Yeah, so he's
maybe I have
a
heard
repair channel. I started watching him because he is fucking hilarious. Every video makes me laugh my ass off.
Now I gotta check it out.
He's got
I'm
a
waiting
good
for
humor.
Family Guy.
It's like a Family Guy episode, yeah. So every intro, it just cracks me up. He's great. Check his channel out because his intros are pieces of art.
He'll do a fully produced 2-minute intro for a 30-second video. So I gotta respect that.
It's great.
Beautiful.
Yeah, his channel's got an awesome vibe, and he knows what he's talking about too. So he's one of the good ones.
That helps.
It does, yeah. There's a lot out there that have very successful channels that don't know what they're talking about. So I don't think it's it's not a requirement to have a lot of subscribers.
He's got a similar name to you, I think.
To me, yeah. Well, you know.
I know who you're talking
about. I know who you're talking about. I noticed
there's a few out there.
Conspiracy theorists.
Have you guys seen that Tony McKenzie?
My God! Yeah,
one of the serious boards.
No,
Origin.
Oh,
it's the longest video on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
I was watching it. I was watching it, and I'm like going, "Oh, come on! Why do you have to
Here's a guy that
throw him under the bus a little bit? You know, come on."
He reviewed the board, and he was saying something about like
documentation
blame
parts
you guys
and things and blah blah blah.
Okay.
Couldn't find
that's the thing that scares the shit out of me with these Marshall boards. Like people keep asking me, I want the bare board, I want the bare board, I want the bare board. I don't want to sell them, to be honest. I'm really worried about that.
Before, Brad, the thing about, we talked about the Facebook group that was set up, right, for self-help, but it has amazed me how many people without much experience have managed to build stuff that works.
Yeah. Okay.
Does it really
work? Like there's always
amps.
There's always this percentage of people that are just annoying, right? Because they just want everything spoon fed to them. Yeah. But it
What worries
surprised
me-
how many guys without, because the documentation on my stuff is not awesome. I'll be the first to say it.
But-
I've always said, if you just want to buy a kit and build an amp and it's your first one, do not buy anything from Evolve. It's not for that. It's for people that kind of know a little bit, you know.
But that's why you split up, because previously your kits said head first.
Yeah,
Like you
correct.
needed to differentiate what you built and what other people built.
Well, once I
that's what I've
decided
got
to
do
actually
with my
bring out an
boards.
amp, I had to. Like, it came really obvious.
Yeah.
And,
Because if
and
you've
it's
got
still
head
like, I
first
find that, you know,
amplification
like
on
I still see stuff on some of the forums where there's old amps that were put out during that period that had head first on them. And I don't like to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
'cause
it's
some
the
of those
history,
out of
you know, like,
control.
you can't change the history of it, you know, like,
yeah.
yeah.
So that's what I was thinking. If I do the boards, I'm going to make it, instead of FYM, read into that what you will, FYM 2000, I'll make them a DIY 2000 or something, just to differentiate, to make it clear that it was done.
Oh,
not
right.
one
Yeah,
maker,
yeah. That's a
so-
good way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure you
Yeah.
upload the actual
Sorta.
correct BOM.
Call it the YMMV.
I still like what I
Oh,
came
what?
up with. I like the.
So
I mean,
Michelle's actually back here, my lovely wife. She's being my slave today, building the boards. She's actually loves a good puzzle, so it's working out well. I will be checking them over though.
Yeah, that's called QA.
I know what my wife would tell me to go do if I asked her to do that.
My wife would literally say the
Yeah.
same thing. It's probably what your wife would say.
So you can see over here we've got a little bit of a station set up, little production area, and we've got all the bins laid out. All the boards are over there,
Rocking.
so you can see over there.
Oh, crap.
We've got to get those orders out, boys. We've got to get them tested. That's Dad's valve tester up the end there. That's come in very good handy this week. We've had a bunch of new old stock valve acquisitions, some GEC KT66s. Yeah,
Beluga caviar of tubes.
We got 8 of them, and there happened to be a match quad almost perfectly within 0.5 of a milliamp.
Those are worth a lot of money.
Yeah, and a match pair. So, yeah.
What are you going to do with those?
I don't know. I kind of want to hold on to them for a special project. I don't really want to just resell them, if you know what I mean.
Tell them. Make money.
Someone that
money,
has...
There is a subset of musicians, I'll say that, who have the really nice gear and they want it all done up really well, and they want to have these tubes.
They want the best of
and
the best.
bless their hearts, they just cannot play. And it kills me to know that some of these absolute gems, it's like, you know, it's like a 54 Strat that gets bought by a Japanese bank and it gets framed and put up in a lobby or in a vault somewhere.
I
It's
hate
like
that shit,
it
man.
won't be making music. It was
needs to
here
make
to do
music.
this. You know.
Well, that's why I don't have a guitar collection, because I feel I would rather have that beautiful guitar in a working musician's hands, because I want, for me, the priority is art, creating culture, you know, like
There's so many guitars out there. Odds are you're not keeping a 54 Strat off the market. So, you know, you can have one too, Brad. It's okay. There are a lot of them
I'll
out
be
there.
right. It'd be better served in one of my customers or one of my friends' hands who are actually inspiring people with it. But yeah, it's one of those things. I feel guilty owning nice things because I feel like someone else should have them.
Well, I justify it, but because when the pros come over to do playing demos for the channel,
True.
here's what it sounds like with a Strat. Here's what it sounds like with a 335. Yeah. I have the guitars that are all set up. Everything's with 10s. Almost every pro player can play a guitar with 10s. And so they may bring their telly and then they show my Strat and the SG or whatever. I think it's justifiable. So at least that's what it says on my business tax. These are all business expenses.
They absolutely are.
It's like my other hobby, cameras. I can claim all of that, all the tools.
Yeah, all mine.
Yeah, I'm next quarter. I'm going to get a new camera.
Yep. What are you getting?
I'm gonna get the ZVE 10 Mark II. which
What's
is
the difference?
It's basically what you have. Only yours is optimized for photography, and the ZV-E10 is Mark II is optimized for video, and then the big brother of both is the FX30. Yours is kind of in between. The FX30 is basically the ZV-E10 Mark II, but it has an inbuilt fan and more features. Yours has got some better photography settings, except that mine would it still doesn't have the ZV like the Mark II ZV-E10 doesn't have the analog shutter, whereas yours has an analog shutter.
Oh,
FX30's
got no mechanical shutter.
Right, and so the ZV-E10 and the FX30 have software shutters. So so one's better for photo, one's better for video. But the one I'm getting is a little bit cheaper than what you have, but it's more optimized for what I'm doing. I'm sorry, I don't want to bore everyone else. Well, Brad and I can talk about cameras another time. We do.
Hey! Don't y'all motherfuckers forgetting about me as well. I'm the one who fucking used to be a pro photographer. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't show right now.
I've seen Six's photography and it is fantastic.
I don't care. Funnily enough, this is being done through like $6,000 worth of camera. Like I got an A7 IV just sitting on my shelf there, 2470 glass master, all that kind of jazz, and then I got like an XA50 up top, and I like barely use any of it. And then on the bench here, I've got my Stream Deck XL from when I used to do stuff in the past. I got the Yamaha AG08, and then I've got like $5,000 worth of lighting sitting in my storage area.
Get it out and get it angry, brother.
I ain't got nothing to shoot.
Colby Jack, thanks for the $2, champion. Dave, which Friedman for cleans?
Well, really, the only thing that has like Fender-esque, shall we say, clean channels would be either the Runt 50 amp on the cheaper side, or the B50 Deluxe. Slightly different Fender style channels in each one, but that's just minor parts differences. And
it's the SS100, Dave.
The SS100 too. Thank you. Actually, that might be my favorite.
Doing yourself a disservice, buddy.
Yeah, that might be my favorite. Actually, maybe. I mean, they're all really similar. I mean, they're it's a Fender style circuit, so it's a gain stage, an EQ, and a gain stage. Okay.
Yeah.
The EQ points you can slightly fuck with, and there's not too much you're going to do different.
That guy with the Runt 20 that you sent my way for that recap, I had to play that thing, and it was awesome. It's a really nice sounding clean on that, and it's got that is the amp I suggest to everyone, because it's got everything you could ever need. It's got a beautiful overdrive channel, beautiful clean channel. It's got effects loop. It's got everything you need.
Yeah, it works.
So that's the one the one I recommend to people, and try and steer them away from Mesa and Fender and Marshall. Try to get something that actually lasts.
You guys all want to do the Mesa repairs, don't you? I know Lyle.
Alex wants to do all the Mesa.
Alex is the Mesa man,
Man, I just did everything your way, brother.
I've got that goddamn.
Send it back, it dies.
Oh god, what is that?
Mark IIB, right in front of me.
At least that era of Mesa was easier.
Yeah, I've got a Subway where none of the Vactrols work, and the replacement Vactrols that were on the market don't work, and I got to figure that out. And I've got a Strategy 88 where all the tiny little traces burned up, and Mesa doesn't have those boards anymore. And I told the guy I could try to fix it, no promises, but it's going to be so many tiny little wires. And at the end of the day, if I can get it working, sell the fucker and buy an amp made by a company that knows how to design amplifiers, because you cannot have tiny little traces right next to each other with that much current, that much voltage, and then the freaking boards that Mesa uses, they always develop this pond scum
smell
that becomes conductive, and then arc.
And then let's see what else. Tantalum caps. Oh boy.
Tantalum caps.
Let's see what else.
I just had the Strategy 290 where 5 of the 6 400-volt orange drops had blown out.
Yeah, there's that, and then there's the
world's most important heatsink.
Oh yeah, it does.
With the hammer
every one of those should have its heatsink donated to Matchless, which could actually fucking use it.
Fun fact on that heatsink: if you take that off, they've actually put thermal paste underneath that.
Oh my god! They have to.
Are you serious? Jesus Christ!
Well, it's true that bare part of the chassis that's not near anything never gets hot.
See the hammer mark?
Right.
They all have a hammer mark right there from in the factory. The last test they do before they put them in the cabinet is they whack it with a hammer right there, hard enough to dent the friggin' steel.
But they
And
fucking
that is
miss.
the final test. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should have used the sledgehammer.
I just
No,
I,
anyway,
I wouldn't go near it with a 10-foot pole.
Well,
That's the
I-
most
I-
I've
I
Don't
seen
won't
in
forget
get
class.
their wonderful service diagrams and schematics where they intentionally put the mistakes in there. I lost about an hour and a half once on one of their amps because of how they noted down where the JFET was in relation to a relay and a cap. And then finally I pulled that part of the board out, pulled all the components around, traced it, and I'm like, you motherfuckers.
Well, it's not that they're lying; they don't know. I used to be able to call the guy. I used to call the guy who ran the show there in production, and he'd say, "We don't know. We don't have the layouts. We don't have this part is here. They have to find it too. So if here's the tube, the triode in question, and I'm looking for the plate resistor for it, it should be somewhere around here. No, it's over here, and they don't know that. Because they put the part number beneath the part. So you can't see the part number unless you remove the part. And the part number does not correlate to the schematic, which just has a fucking value on it. So
here's my board layout.
That was done sanely.
As short as I
That's
can.
crazy.
But on a method, they'll be like, here's the plate resistor right here, right, and whatever. But they'll put like the plate resistor for this triode like over here, and there'll be two traces running all the way over here to it, and then they wonder why the fucking things oscillate. It's like, dude, just keep your shit short.
Not to mention the fact that, like, in all of their infinite wisdom, in all of their wonderful switching topologies and all the weird things, that the F series amps, the F50 in particular, it is my most hated of all of their models because somehow they thought it'd be a smart idea to put a 1.5 meg resistor on the input of V1 and then switch it a gain stage before that one as well that has no grid stopper on there. All of that wonderful noise and just, no, my head hurts.
The biggest thing
for me, I need to dive back into it. Oh God.
The thing for me is if I get a Friedman, if I get a Surin, I've seen Jason's boards. I've seen Brad's boards. Both of them when they were developing their boards, they all have something in common. They know how circuits work, and how circuits work kind of influence how the layout's going to go. And so all of them, John Suhr's the same. The SLO, the true SLO, beautiful layout because the logic dictates that's what has to be the layout. It's not like you're choosing to make artistic choices. You're like, hey, I want to keep the signal path short. I want to keep the diodes, the triode separation between stage to stage, and then you get something which is logical, and a tech can look at it and say, okay, I see everything is happening. And you're not going here to here to here to here to here.
Layout is everything in this.
Some of those boutique guys, though, they love it. They want it all aesthetic. They want it all looking a particular way so the customers can open.
But I mentioned professionals, not boutiques. So
I mean, they're the ones making money. So shit.
Well, that's what I asked him. Like, when you put those 90-degree turns, aren't you worried that the electrons are going to leave skid marks when they turn that corner?
Well, here's the thing, and Dave. Again, I'm saying this for the people watching. If I am Joe Schmo and I want to launch a boutique amp company, I can buy a CE sticker off eBay and I can wire the fucker any way I want and sell it to some other idiot. And there's no safety code. There's electrical code is not being followed. It's illegal for sale in any country. But the tone, man. Whereas you, Dave, and John Suhr and other guys I know, you've got to pay to have everything inspected for it's for sale for Europe, and everything has to be done to code, and the ground must be either green and white and yellow striped. It must be this gauge, must be going to its own hardware connection to the chassis, and some countries want a particular connection, and you've got to pay to have that stuff certified. So you have such an unfair advantage, a disadvantage compared to the idiots who have no business selling a thing.
But the interesting thing about certification and CE is there appears to be no exact standard of what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Self-certification.
And every lab
self-certification, isn't it?
that does it has different ideas on what you should do or not do. You can some stuff will pass with one lab, one other lab won't pass certain stuff if it's not a certain specific way. Either way is safe, but it
does feel a bit like a bit of a protection racket.
I found an amplifier from a reasonably well-known international brand that had CE lasered on the back of the chassis. The whole amp, including the chassis ground, was grounded with a switchcraft jack at the input.
Nice. Good stuff.
Primo.
Well, here's a good example,
So that tells me that CE thing is like, I don't know what the hell they do, but they clearly don't look at the insides.
Well, it could be that it wasn't CE approved.
Yeah, maybe.
You guys seen these things, haven't you?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, and my nightmares.
So, Mesa V-twin preamp rack. Crack it open. What does the ground lift switch do? It lifts the fucking safety ground from the chassis.
Yeah.
That's illegal. How did that come in the country? So that's why we have a bit of disrespect and distaste for Mesa products.
It's all.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
bizarre, that could kill someone.
Regardless of whether the CE standard is enforced across the board equally or even well, the fact is, I look at an app that you do or John Sir does, and it's all smart, and you're like, okay, this will keep someone from getting electrocuted. This won't kill my potential customers. This is going to sound good. This is going to work next week. All that. It bothers me that so many people just say, "Hey, man, ground is ground is ground," and hot glue makes for a better connection. It's discouraging.
I just realized, guys, my lovely wife, Michelle, just advised me that I had a typo in the subject line.
2023, baby.
March 2023.
So you gone backwards a bit there, huh?
I just fixed it.
Oh, wow.
Well, you said date to be announced, so.
Yeah. We're going back, baby. We're going back.
We don't know when you actually typed that.
Roads?
So maybe.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. I never claimed that I wasn't. Well, maybe that's why we haven't cracked over the 10,000 subs yet. I think it's going to be a bit of a.
It's going to be subs are going backwards, Brad.
It's going to be a bit of an anticlimax. I think the story of my life.
Man. Well, let me put it this way, and Dave knows this, and Jason knows this. When you actually do go over 10K, you don't know the exact moment because it doesn't tell you anything, and because
Yeah.
I remember the day that I
wall.
first saw it click over to 10K, and then it clicked down to 99999, and then 99998, and then the next day I was like 100 over 10K is when you actually get to
noise.
Hey, you've reached
just background noise,
and then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
nothing
it
changes.
does suck that some of the best channels out there have very little audience. So yeah, I think we should share the stuff around.
Yeah,
It's,
I mean,
it's good information.
The algorithms is crazy, and I've certainly tried to promote guys like
We
Frank.
just need to make more thumbnails where we're going like that.
You mean like my ones?
Your ones, yeah. You're actually pretty good at riding the algorithm. You know what you're doing.
I put out a video like once every couple of months and get like 10, 20K view on it.
Yeah,
you won't believe these
when
32 complicated steps to
seriously
to achieve this simple
just
trick.
I shot a random just hell of it video, 3 minutes on my phone, all the rest of that, and it's one of the highest viewed videos on my channel, and yet people still complain. It's insane.
Yeah, it's the controversy too. Like, you don't pull any punches, and that always increases the engagement in the comments, and that makes it do better in the algorithm too. So
Dave just skips a step and names his products things which are already going to get the clicks.
Brown
It's the
I
pink
kind of
taco.
stopped doing that.
Where did that come from, Dave?
The funny thing, it's so the original
74.
BE amp, right? The original BE amp was funny. A guy that worked for me for years, a long time ago, and he's like, "Oh, you should just call it the Brown Eye." Now, I wasn't actually thinking about what he was saying exactly. I'm like thinking in my head, oh yeah, the brown sound kind of thing. Oh yeah, okay. I wasn't really, it wasn't
The Italian
registering.
guys.
And that's how
Gotcha.
that came about. And then,
And
some of the other
Pink
ones.
Taco?
I mean, Dirty Shirley was more of a pinup kind of culture thing, you know, like kind of thing, and that was also a drink.
Yeah.
And
then drink?
like a Shirley Temple with like vodka in it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And you know, and then the one that's funny is like people say something about small box. I go, that had nothing, you know what?
That's literally
that was literally
That's a description of a smaller Marshall head.
The Marshall head was known as a small box.
Small box.
You're not talking about box.
That's why it was called.
I never
small
made
box.
that connection.
That's as simple as it was. But they started reading other stuff into these names. It's just like going, you know, I mean, twin sister was supposed to, you know, like it's Dirty Shirley, right? Well, then she has a twin sister. You know, so that's where that came from. You know, so it's because there's 2 channels.
Yeah,
you know.
Someone just said
product
make
names
the
are
next
tough.
one Hot Carl. Well,
Hot Carl.
Hot Carling maybe.
Tight box.
You do one for the Kentucky.
See, this is
clients,
how it starts.
the hot brown.
This is
This is
it.
how it starts.
You know,
we're all
but-
in
It's
picture
going to be called the tight box.
But I haven't done any of those names in a while, really. So you know,
What was the thinking behind the Alta, Chase?
So that means
Hi.
so the original search engine on the internet, Alta
Alta
Vista,
Vista.
Oh,
Fuck. You're right.
it means elevated view, right? So then I looked up Alta, and it's like it means like elevated or high or.
I
I
haven't
thought you were
thought
just a
about
massive
that.
fan
I
of
like
the
that.
90s.
It was between that and the Ask Jeeves 2000. So, you know.
Yeah, Ask Jeeves. That's something I'd name my amp because I'm an idiot. Well, I had the Porcena Los Dos, which is like, why not both? Because of the Taco ad that's on TV. That was basically just the the blackface, AB763 channel combined with pretty much an entire 5E3, switching the phase inverter as well. So you had a cathodiene on the 5E3 channel and a long-tailed pair on the black panel version. That was the brief from the customer. I don't know why I chose to say yes to that one, but it was an interesting project. Still got
You
a
missed
couple
the
of
opportunity. You missed the opportunity to sell him 2 amps instead of 1 amp. You could have said,
Yeah,
I'll make you the
I'm an idiot.
blackface and I'll make you the tweed. And there you go.
Yeah.
Did you
So
say
what was
two
the end
BAMs?
result with?
Sorry, what was that?
Did you say 2 BAMs? Like
2 BAMs.
CW0?
No, 2 amps.
Oh,
He sold him 1 amp when he could have sold him 2 amps. He would
don't
have
have
done
time to
less
build
work,
2
made more
amps.
money.
Yeah.
So what
You-
was the
you
deal
sold
with
him
the
one BAM.
that switching noise in that
Switching
amp?
noise.
Yeah, because when I was there, you were testing it. You said you found the problem, and it was something
Yes,
real
that was-
simple.
What did I do? I had to do a bodge wire. I think I tacked one of the. I think the master was tacked into the wrong position. So that was a PCB layout error. But all I had to do was just run one wire to the master volume pot, and then it was sorted. But yeah, I had the other day. I had a one of the Marshall boards was thumping when I channel switched because I test every one of them. And I've got a TSL 100 and a DSL 100 down there, which I've adapted to quickly change the boards in and out and test them one by one. And one of them was thumping really loud when I changed channel. I thought, that's weird. So after building 20 of these boards, on the 21st one, I put one of the capacitors the wrong way around, and that was enough to cause a thump on the channel switch.
That makes it an authentic Marshall touch there.
Yeah.
If you wanted to get the true Marshall backwards cap, you would have put it in the bias, though.
In the bias supply, yeah. I'll definitely be running a very careful eye over the whole lot of them. So
it's pretty easy to
Very-
you know, when you're doing
Well,
production.
Shit, it
like that.
happens. It's just like, you know, people
on the
people say,
protos.
you know, people say about, you know, hand wired amps and stuff, and I'm like, are you sure you want a hand wired amp? Because with the hand wired amp comes
Less
hand wired
consistency.
problems. Because I don't care who you are or how many, you know, you've made or how, you know, how good you are at doing it. There's gonna be a solder joint you're gonna make a mistake on. You're not gonna,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. We're all human.
Totally.
it's human. And
that's where QC comes into play.
And just like, and I've told people this before, just like Marshalls I've seen that have come in from 1968. Oh, look at that. The mid pot is not soldered.
Yeah.
It's the
Just
wires
hold
wrapped
that
around it,
like
and it's
raw.
obviously worked enough for, the whole time, but like.
I had a high
I
watt
think
where
we've all seen at least one fender that's had like, no solder on one of the tube sockets or something where you just see the wire, it's just held in place there for like 50 years.
the
and it
reissues.
works.
Oh yeah, and the heaters.
No,
Oh, yeah,
even
oh,
the
the-
vintage ones.
The green heater wires on
Always,
fenders where the
always
two-
on the heaters. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the two wires go through. Didn't solder well enough.
I had a high watt. It's like a 2015 model or something, DR103, and it had been through 3 different owners, and finally came to this producer friend of mine, and he knows what it's supposed to sound like, and he's like, something's not right, man. It's just something's weird. Had a look, and there was a 2.2K and a 22K resistor next to each other, and they got them the wrong way around, so the phase inverter was being crippled. So yeah, and that had been around the traps for almost 10 years before I found it. So
I mean,
Comes back to my point before, a guitarist just not knowing what they should or shouldn't sound like.
yeah, true words.
It does happen a lot more than what people realize, though. Like there was
Hell yeah.
Carol Ann, I think it's called, that I worked
ODS
on,
thingies.
and the presence wasn't even wired up at all. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
right. So it did nothing.
Was it always dull sounding to you before? No, I liked it. It was all right. I'm like, oh.
And then you fix it,
Probably
and they don't
fine.
like it.
Mate goes, oh, it's bright as now. I'm like, yeah, just turn it off, and it'll be about the same as what it was before.
Yeah. Well, I was tossing up whether or not to do any voicing mods to these Marshall boards, and I was thinking probably shouldn't, at least not as standard, because if people replace this board and the amp sounds different, it could sound better to me, but not necessarily to them. They might have had their rig set up a certain way or using a particular speaker, and then if I make it sound like I think is better, they might not like it. So I'm just pretty much tried to sound as much as possible like the original. But I've always liked the DSL-100 sound better than the TSL, and I think it's all down to one capacitor, C18, which is 470 pico on the DSL and 100 pico on the TSL. So the TSL sounds fizzier and much harsher top end. So I might offer that as a, I don't know, like a little guide that you can change out that one cap and get it a bit smoother sounding, because the TSL just sounds a bit over the top harsh, particularly when it's going through a 1960A with a G12 T75s, whatever they're called.
What's your favorite on the
Brothers.
DSL? Sorry, everyone's talking at once. Sorry.
You're right.
Yeah, I'll go first.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
Oh, I was just going to say with the DSL 2000, DSL 100, JCM 2000. Sorry.
Yep.
How do you dial it in, Brad? What's your favorite? Because there's like 4 main settings, right? 2 modes per channel. How do you dial it in? What's your favorite setting on that amp?
Oh, man, with all amps, I just start at 12 o'clock, and to me that should be a good meat and potatoes tone, and then tweak it from there.
Do you go on the green channel or the clean channel or the
green
channel?
The green channel just starts to break up when it's at like 12 o'clock, and if you push it harder, it sounds almost plexi-ish when you push that clean channel into break up. But yeah, it depends on the purpose, depends on the speaker, but it's one of those amps that sounds not bad at 12 o'clock, and I think that should be where you start with every amp. I would actively make an amp sound like a good meat and potatoes tone at 12 o'clock and then tweak from there, almost like a EQ, like a graphic EQ. Everything's flat in the center, and then shape it from there. And I found all the decent amps, all the Sirs, Dave's work, they all sound fantastic at 12 o'clock. You don't have to do the old combination lock like you do with these things where they only sound good at extreme settings.
Because where the tone stack is versus the gain.
The
one thing I really strongly think you should implement once this board is a success for you, and people know that you know what you're doing with the DSL, TSL boards, because right now people are kind of testing the waters. Once people know that you are the guy for that, Ditch the stupid dual bias thing. Put in a standard bias circuit, please, 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 because that bias is terrible on that. And that cap between the screen and the plate over there at that one power tube, ditch that. It does nothing.
Yeah.
It's already gone. Good, because it does nothing good, and it kills so many amps.
So I've done a few differences. I've put flyback diodes on there. I've gotten rid of the fuses for the heaters for every single tube. That's just, I don't know why they did that. If you're going to have anything, it'll be usually a screen grid short and then through the cathode and blow the cathode current sense resistor. But,
I think.
Sorry?
I think it's for compliance.
Oh, okay. For
No.
CE, for
Doesn't have to
Euro.
be.
Are you talking about those little?
Yeah.
Because Brad, I remember
You've got to fuse
a couple of
secondaries. You don't have
months
to
ago.
fuse cathodes.
Those
No,
heaters,
the
low
heaters are
voltage.
fused.
The
Oh,
heat
this
is
the heater fuse. That's right.
Oh, that's all right.
But it's not the
That's-
winding
that's-
though. So the preamp heaters aren't fused. So it's not like you've just fused the secondary of the heater winding. Each valve has a fuse in series. Each EL34 has a fuse in series with its heater, and I have no idea. It's the only amp I've ever seen that on.
Crazy.
I don't know if they thought they were
Much
putting
too
in
much.
cathode fuses, which would make sense, but they put it on
Yeah,
the heater
okay.
instead. I've
I
got
was
no
thinking
idea
something
why.
else.
Yeah.
Did you retain, Brad? Did
So
you
the-
retain the fuses on the low voltage supply?
So that's on a separate board. That's on the board on the rear.
Oh, that's on the rear board. Yeah. So this is just
so
the
that's
main board,
separate
isn't
to
it?
the main board.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So it's just the main board. I've had
Hey
a few
guys,
people ask me.
it's 7 o'clock on a Saturday night. My wife is
Oh, yeah.
prettier than any of y'all. I got to go. We're having pizza and
All right,
movies
mate.
and all that fun stuff. Good
Thanks
to
for
see you
joining
guys. Thanks for having
See
me.
you, Lyle.
It's been fun.
Bloody legend. Take
Appreciate
it easy.
you, man. See
Yeah.
ya.
So yeah.
See you.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah. So where were we? Yeah. So the low voltage supply and a few other things that need modification are on one of the rear boards. I'm going to do a video on the stuff that you should address while you've got the board out. One of them, everyone knows that stupid 16 ohm jack issue where it actually breaks the connection and you're relying on the shorting contacts to carry all the current unless you're using the 16 ohm jack.
What a
So
great
put
idea.
Jumper wire across it. Yeah. I think that was actually an error. I don't think they did that on purpose. But yeah, you should put a link wire across that at least. Probably recap the low voltage supply. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of any logic behind doing it. Like there's no particular reason. So I wonder if maybe it was just an oversight. Try not to assign malice to everything I find.
Not malice, incompetence. It's that.
Are you
It's
sure about
made
that?
a mistake or whatever.
Yeah. Try not
Sure.
to, Dave. I'm trying to turn over a new
I
leaf,
saw the
mate.
Lazy J video. I don't know.
Oh, don't get me started. I'm still copping hatred for that.
You don't know
It's,
what you're talking
it's
about.
so weird, man. Like people are religious about companies that don't care about them. It's just
Oh my god, it was
strange.
so funny. I was dying when I first saw that video.
The amount of shit that
Most
I
of
saw
most
on
of
the
them
Epiphone
come from
video.
that M word that I generally see a lot of.
The M mess up.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I sometimes get a distorted memory of like how hard I was on that Lazy J, and then I go back and watch the video, and I was pretty even-handed with that. I pretty much just was saying what I was looking at, and
Yeah, the
people
little kid
tried
gloves.
people tried to assign me being dishonest. I'm like, dude, it's in front of your face on the camera. Like, what do you think I built this to discredit another builder and like pretend
You
it was
went
his
after
when
their
it was
golden
mine or
half,
something?
man. You
I
can't
have
do
no
that.
idea the logic behind it, dude. It was really weird. And,
I mean it was the Mojo Tone Champ like clone, wasn't it? Isn't that what it is?
I'm pretty sure it was.
Let's not beat around the
a
bush. It's
majority
Like
of
a
it was
Tweed
kit.
Deluxe, right?
Yeah, it was a 5A3 with a extra couple of valves added, 6 L6s slammed into the output, so it still had a 5A3 transformer. And he's actually written articles where he's been in interviews talking about how it gives such a good sound to have an underrated power transformer. I'm like, dude, you are melting transformers. You don't underrate your power transformer. You will
output
cause
transformer.
fires.
Yeah, 50-50.
So
Well,
yeah,
he was saying
like
it was a deliberate design decision.
yeah, to get
come
compression. But the transformers are melting, and this particular one that I had melted the primary to the core. So there was a direct short from active to ground. If you
Nice.
had a bad cord,
is that
if
that
you had
amp?
dodgy wiring in your house,
Is that amp, Brad, that had all the like it had some external boxes that were kind of
that one. Yeah.
just design a freaking chassis. I mean, what the fuck? It's just like
I hate shitting on other.
They're off the shelf chassis.
It's a fucking Mojo Tone kit.
I hate shitting on other people, but when the vitriol that came back my way for just stating what was in front of my face was so vicious, I really have to wonder if these people are paid, like maybe employees or something, paid to go on there and troll. I don't know.
People
It
just
doesn't make sense.
they're into their thing. They do whatever. It's like the Epiphone video that I did. You know, talking about the frets and how they were balked and the nut was bad and the QC has gone down ever since KKR purchased Gibson Epiphone. And every second thing was like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're full of shit.
They get really aggressive, eh? It's like, I don't know. Yeah, it starts to roll off your back after a while, you know. Hey, we've got Scotty here from the Screaming Jets. Have you heard about Screaming Jets over there in the States, Dave?
I've heard the name. I don't know much about it though.
Scotty here. It's Scott Kingman from the Screaming Jets. They wrote a song called Better, which is sort of like our unofficial national anthem.
Yeah,
classic. It's a classic. Sure.
Hey, Scotty.
Yeah. So I got to meet him at one of his gigs at the Metro not too long ago. Got a little quick backstage moment. Felt like a rock star. It was good to meet the boys. Yeah. So Scotty learned about my channel during COVID because his amp blew up and all his gigs were cancelled. So he was sort of at a bit of a loss of what to do. So he thought, fuck it, I'm going to try and fix his amp myself. And guess what it was? A Hot Rod Deluxe, a Hot Rod DeVille, actually. So he found, So he found my really poorly produced video about the issues that are common on that amp, and he attempted to repair it, and he was successful. And since then, he's built himself, I think, 4 amps, and they're all fantastic. And one of them he takes on the road with him all the time.
Scotty built a pretty much Dirty Shirley inspired amp using one of the Evolve boards, actually.
The Evolve, yeah.
And he used it on the last album the guys did. He used that amp.
Yeah, awesome. On the last recording, yeah. So it's touring the country, which is awesome. It's great to see guys getting into it and being successful. There is nothing quite like that hit of dopamine when you first crank up that amp and it works. Yeah. I still get it to this day.
Nice.
Do you still get it, Dave?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. When you first do a new amp, you know, you just like you put it all together, and you're like,
you use chopsticks to turn it on.
No.
From across the room, like hiding behind a cardboard box.
I can flick the switch, man. Go.
You mean bang?
Yeah. Bring it up in a variac with all the tubes out first. Hey, welcome. I don't know. There's heater voltages. Okay, there's bias voltage. Okay, there's high voltage. And it's getting everywhere from one end to the board to the other. So we might be good. So let's put the tubes in.
This is exactly what I do, Dave. That's all you need.
Put the tubes in. Okay.
I've got one of these cheap little buggers.
The power transformer's not making hissing sounds. That means
no smells.
Yep.
You plug that into the wall and plug the variac into that, and you slowly wind her up.
It's like a current meter.
You can watch it. Yeah, it is. It's like a power wall consumption, wall power consumption meter.
I just put an 18 meter on the variac, which is
I modded. I think Alex, you might have given me the tip for that. I modded my variac with one of those little.
It's like a more accurate. It's like a more accurate dim bulb tester. The dim bulbs, you've got no power over them, and they drop your voltages by so much. On that, you can crank it right up to the full mains, and you can watch the current. And after you've done half a dozen amps and kept notes, you've got in the back of your head, okay, a Marshall will draw about 120, 130 watts, 100 watt amp.
The JVM.
You know, like is that different?
Yeah, the JVM pulls like 200 and something.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah. God only knows.
Well, it's going somewhere. Where's it going?
I know.
The JVM.
I have to look into that.
Must be heat.
410.
I don't seem to remember it being
at idle.
excessive.
They pull like 200 and something watts.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, you're gonna have to check
in real time, mate. I keep notes on every single job that comes through, so I can have a look. I can give you a quote right now, actually.
Because we went. Remember, we went through that when I had that one that was on the bench. So I was just testing and checking and all the rest of that.
Yeah, I remember something vaguely about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How big's the PT on
Chunky. It's got because it's got all the solid state stuff as well, and it's not very efficiently done. And then they got like the digital reverb board as well, and like the million relays and shit in there. So they pull a lot of power. They got because they got more tubes and more preamp tubes than any of the other models except for the 6100.
All right, let's have a look. I'm pulling up my specs.
Uh-oh.
We were drawing standby 72.5 watts, play 136 watts. Not very high. 310 watts maximum at full power output. So I don't know if you guys do that, but I keep measurements of voltages and currents for pretty much every job that comes through. Because I like to have a record of what they are.
That's way too organized for me.
Nope. I might take some pictures. That's about it.
Yeah. Do you have notes on this? What you did to this amp? No.
No.
You know what you did
I
to your, Friedman, whatever, B100 from 2015? Nope. No idea. Can you show me a
every
picture?
single repair that I've done going back to 2017 because of the CRM that I use. So I can just search for a word or a customer or an amp or a product, and it brings up everything I've ever done, all the notes I've done and all the rest of that. And I can just check just to make sure, because inevitably there's a customer who comes back in and says, you did this and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, wait, no. Actually, no, I did this to it. You've taken it somewhere else and they butchered it.
Oh, we might have an answer about your JVM here. Maybe it's mining Bitcoin in the background with the DSP there. 6. That's why it's drawing excess current. No, but I started doing it, and I learned very early on to log the serial numbers for amplifiers. I don't know if it was malicious, but I had a customer pretty early on that had 2 of the same model amp, and he said the one that I recently repaired was having issues again. He brought it in, different serial number. I'm like, ooh, was that on purpose, buddy?
I take photos and log info as well, because when it comes in, the photos get done, it goes into Repair Shopper, and then the customer comes in or whatever else, and they go, oh, but you did this or that to the insurance. It didn't look like that when I brought it in. It's like, there you go. There's the photos. That's what it was like the day you brought it in. Compare. I don't know what happened, but you forgot what it looked like. You forgot about that chip on the headstock. You forgot about the tear in the Tolex.
Yeah, that can be tough. I've been pretty lucky with that so far. No one's really tried to blame guitar damage on me, but it's sort of like, what do? Do you take photos and make them sign off on it and increase your workload?
That is literally what I do.
Yeah, right. Okay.
That's what Repair Shop is about. I could just throw it all in that. They can use iPad or whatever else to sign it and digitally done that way. And that way it's all there and there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Because unfortunately, I have had a couple of negative run-ins with that. And because my brain is a scatterbrain at times and I do forget things from time to time, it's good to just have it in black and white.
I think I sent you a picture once, Brad, of the thing that I forgot. And the guy was complaining that he couldn't change channels in his quad preamp, and it was because I had a alligator clip on the foot switch.
You left it in.
You left the scalp in during surgery.
It's like you get a very feverish call from your surgeon. Have you got any pains in your abdomen? No, never mind.
Yeah.
No reason.
But I look at that, I'm like, well, okay, that's why, because he's complaining that he couldn't switch it. It was just stuck on one channel. And I was like, no, the only thing that I was using was an alligator clip to like change channels and stuff. So
I've got dummy jacks for that purpose. I've got a mono one that's shorted out, and I've got a stereo one that's got the ring shorted, and a stereo one that's got the tip shorted, so I can just plug them in without having to pull out a foot switch. So
that's a great tip.
I did a similar thing, but I put a switch on the end of the jack, just a three-way toggle switch, so it goes none connected, one connected, either connected, both connected.
Good move.
Yeah. You made it, right?
Yeah.
We'll switch everything.
Yeah.
I did the exact same thing. I have it down at the factory. It's a little heat shrunk toggle switch attached to a 1/4-inch jack, and it's just it's like a solid piece, handmade,
Yep.
My favorite tool.
One direction it's tip to ground, other direction it's ring to ground.
Sleeve
in the middle it's both to ground.
Ring to ground. Yeah, cool. No, that's a good move.
All good tips. Thanks.
Yeah,
those are good.
The other one is
I'm still down alligator clip.
All 3 cents.
Like here we go. A little bit of advice for people who are watching. Right, we've all of us techs. Right, we've all got stuff we've all made. We've all done things to make the job, and then we've seen others that do similar type things. So we go, oh, that's a good idea. It's like I've had this stick now. This is my safety stick. I have had this for 10 years. It is a 5 watt 10K resistor, soldered to a bit of metal on the end there, heat shrunk and all the rest of that, alligator clip on the other side, just in case. Because man, those little nips that you get from caps that haven't fully been discharged, they're never pleasant. I hate them.
I've seen one of those on Karate Kid actually, but it was more like a paddle pop thing.
Oh, is that where you
monkey drum?
Monkey drum,
Okay.
See, now I need to make one.
This is a good idea, Six. I'm going to make one of those.
Yeah, I used to just have
thing.
a.
I learned that.
You know what else would work?
What?
You know what else would work? Just a valve base. You know how you can buy the bases by themselves, and just put a fucking 220K resistor from plate to cathode pin.
The problem with that, and the reason why I made this, right? I was working on a PV Valve King 100, and I had to remove the amp out of the chassis, and I was sure I discharged the amp, and I reached under, grabbed the board, and ouch.
Everyone's copped the hit.
Checked it out, and there was a damaged trace between one of the nodes. So when I was going to move the board, it disconnected. So now I go through and I do all of the caps just to make sure, so there's not one there that hasn't got a path to ground to discharge.
On the cap itself, that's what I tell. When you do videos, there's a level of liability involved there, because like people sometimes, implied. So there's some people take them as an instructional video, so I make it pretty clear that this isn't an instructional video. This is just my experience in life on planet Earth. But at the start of the video, I'll say, I'll check the caps and I'll check the actual cap, not some other connection somewhere else, because there could be a blown fuse, there could be a switch that's off that I haven't noticed, there could be all sorts of stuff that, like an open dropper resistor, for example, and you could have a charge further downstream. So try and measure on the actual cap itself, because that's where the danger comes from.
But as the longer you do this, the more, say, careless you get.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
It's like I can solder that while the amp's on, right?
Yeah, exactly. How fucking
I was changing a power supply in a Line 6 Helix the other day, and I had to test it and do some things. Like, cool, awesome. Went to remove the module, and I forgot that it doesn't have a full fast discharge time across the cap in the switch mode supply. So I reached under, grabbed it, and copped full 400 volts at 120 microfarads of charge. So that was pleasant.
Well, one of my plug packs, I think it powers my camcorder. That's where I do my videos. If you unplug that really quickly and touch the prongs, the suppression cap's still charged, and you cop a little hit from that.
How bored you on Friday night, mate?
It's everywhere, man. It's out to get you.
There's actually a requirement for certification that the suppression cap discharge within a certain amount of time. It's like 300 milliseconds or something. But if you're real quick, you can still get a bit of that hit. But film caps, I was testing some film caps on the bench from a vintage amp. We're going to reuse some Mullards or something. The mustard caps, I mean. And I tested them with the insulation tester and forgot they were charged. Came back the next day, it was still charged, and I copped a little hit off just a little 0.1 microfarad film cap sitting on the bench.
That's where it's like when you're testing stuff like that outside of the amp. That's where those little
that's where you forget.
I mean, I tend to like when I'm working on a tube amp, which is all I ever work on. So I don't know why I said that, but I just have the power and the standby on always. And I turn the amp off and on at my Variac. So when you power it off there and it's wide open in the power supply, the power tubes will suck, like it'll be down to 5 volts in 2 seconds flat. So
unless you've got a blown HT fuse.
But I don't do much repair work, so I'm only really kind of if I had done a lot of repair work, I'd have to be more careful.
You know what catches you though? Solid state stuff. So a lot of these bass amps, like the Ashdown is a good example. They've got, well, you're smart. I'm not.
That's why I said I only work on tube.
positive thing
The
to say.
Ashdown,
I'm not touching that stuff.
is it the Evo series or the ABM something or other? The
Evo 500.
Yeah, the Ashdown Evo series amps. They've got 2 heat sinks right next to each other at opposite polarity because they were too cheap to pay for the micro washers. So you've got minus 80, plus 80, and because it's solid state, you let your guard down, and then you touch those 2 heat sinks, and you cop 160 volts across the hand. That's fun, and that's DC too. DC feels very different to AC. AC, you can almost sense it before you touch it. DC just burns. 160. Hey, lick it, mate. It just gives you a bit of spice.
Yeah, that's like.
Does anyone else smell toast?
B1, mate.
I always say that the problem with getting shocked though is your recoil from the amp.
Yeah, it does more
your
damage.
Arms, you yank your arms back so fast.
Yeah.
That often you hurt yourself from just yanking your arms back. So your shoulders are like,
or you throw the amp. You throw the amp across the bloody room.
It was the the recoil.
The one time that did get me was, sorry.
No, you go.
I was working on the first amp I sort of learned on was a Fender 75. Those horrible sounding things, and I ordered some new capacitors for it, and I took the cover off the cap cover off, and I forgot. And when I fired it up to take a few more measurements before proceeding to work, I went to scooch the amp inwards, but I forgot that I removed the cap cover, the doghouse, and copped about 550 volts to the tip of my finger.
Ouch.
And because I play guitar, I have a callus on the fingers from fretting, and it drilled a little hole through my callus.
Yeah.
And that stayed there until the skin grew out. It was like a little pinhole. It literally burned a hole through my skin.
We got Chris here with a comment about the old Wurlitzers having 300 volts on the electrostatic pickups and the heart plates. And it's like, I have worked on old Wurlitzer EPs and that, and I have accidentally once gone and touched the cover and
touched it.
Ow.
Yeah.
It's unpleasant.
Yeah, like
probably
when I've done that quite a few times with when you got a 700 volt AC.
The old Aussie Widowmaker amps.
No, I'm talking about when I'm wanting transformers and stuff, and then
right,
you're testing things, and like the whole dumb thing. Sometimes you do it sort of, the whole thing's running, and you're like, oh yeah, grab it, and then test how much voltage is going through, and then sometimes you just do a dumb thing like you hold both sides of the winding. And
come on, Alex. Do you want to
go on, Alex? How does that go, man? How does that work out for you?
I've got some helplines you can call Alex. Don't end it all, mate. We love you.
And you're laughing because you know
I
that
can hear you yell from here.
Yeah, it's the reaction that's embarrassing, particularly if you're live streaming and you shock yourself. It's hard to cover that one up.
Yeah,
I think that would be a bigger viewership.
I've done it.
Just shock yourself right on the air, and
the C word comes out, Brad, when that happens on your
live.
I
have done that. Yeah, I hit my head on the bench a while back too, and the C bomb came out on a live stream. But you know, we're Aussie. It falls out of our pockets while we're walking down the street.
Pretty much all the time.
It means something different over here.
Yeah, see, being Aussies as well, we're kind of like a little bit more gung-ho than a lot of other places because our amp designers back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s had no idea what they were doing and decided they were just going to go off of the Mullard data sheet for output sections. So you'd get 800 volts across a pair of EL34s for 100 watts of output with half the supply on the screen grids and that, and we'd have to dive inside of them and be very ginger in how we test things just to make sure that we don't end up making stuff go kaboom. I've got like a couple of those amps in my boneyard pile, and it's like I'm never going to get around to fixing those because unless someone comes in and they're going to spend the big money on it, it's like they're terrifying. They are oh my god.
Yeah, it's like working on the Music Man or the Fender Super Bassman, the thing with 6 6550s on it, and that runs about 800, 750, 800 on the plates.
All the Ampeg SVT, but we did it with all the amps here. All of the amps had them.
They're all like Class C. And that's what AC/DC started on. There's still photos going around of a 17-year-old Angus Young with an M&R head, and that was running almost Class C. Oh, Class B, sorry, not C.
Yeah, class B with very, very high impedance transformer, which is why they were massive. They were huge.
And every amp was different. So I've got on my channel, I've got a playlist of vintage Aussie amps because there's quite a few floating around still, but every single one of them's different. There's no two the same. One of them, they ran out of...
every time.
Yeah, I do that and I publish them. There was one where they couldn't get enough current out of the transformer, so they just put 2 power transformers in parallel.
Yep.
Job done. Double the weight of the amp.
That works.
Classic. I've got a golden tone actually. At the moment, it was part of a deceased estate, and it was the chassis only. But that was a 1963 amp, and it's stereo. One side's got reverb, one side's got tremolo. Really weird. And it had the I forget the valve type, but the ones with the anode cap, which is easily accessible from the rear, and it had no insulator on the anode cap.
Safe as.
Safety
for those classic Aussie amps. Safety, it's like, what's that? You know, I've got here in the store an old Vardis from the 60s, and like all of them, it's different than any others. So this one is a 30-watt version of the 60-watt amp that's cathode biased, EL34s with optical trem instead of bias trem like a lot of the other ones had. And of course, there's just holes in the chassis in the back that you can just stick your fingers in right there, mains, whatever. It doesn't matter, it's fine. The foot switch is made out of MDF, because why not? Sorry, chipboard foot switch.
Chipboard, yeah.
Chipboard.
What's that, Alex?
Well, that was a Fisonic 60 WB.
I had one. I had one of those for sale here in the store as well. The dude actually lives 5 minutes down the road from the shop. He's still alive. He still builds amps under that name.
Oh, mate.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
What's his name?
They were learning.
Oh God, I've forgotten his name.
What's his email address?
It literally looks like Operation, you know, the one where you that game that because it had a spine through it, the whole thing. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? I've never seen this before. So because of all the water damage and shit, and all these Deca sort of caps and stuff, the whole thing had to be gutted. So that's not a Fisonic anymore. But...
It's just a high stakes game of Operation, isn't it, Alex? That's what we're doing.
Yeah, and especially when you can't find a schematic anywhere, you're like, fuck this, gutted.
Everything's got its price, mate. You can fix anything. That's what I tell people. It's just how much money have you got.
Anything's fixable with infinite time and infinite money.
Yeah, I can build you half a bridge if you want. It'll take a while.
Just gut a valve state. If you've got a broken valve state, it's called gutting it or getting rid of.
Yeah.
That valve state's fine. Except for the AVT series. They suck.
AVTs, yeah. The ones with the obsolete monolithic
DSP board
output stage devices as well.
And that too.
But I found a little niche market in the infinite amount of Fender Tone Masters that are about to die. So they've got really good cabinets and not bad speakers. So you just pull a chassis out and build a tube amp in it, grab a Mojo Tone chassis. And you got
what's happening with them? These are the new Tone Masters, Brad.
The solid state DSP based Tone Masters, generally the ice power board fails. Usually a shorter diode on the secondary Schottky surface mount, but the problem is it puts a big hole in the board when it burns.
Right.
And that's like a 6-layer or 4-layer board. So you get shorts from the interconnections between the different layers of the PCB. So instead of our PCBs that have traces on one side, traces on the other, these have internal traces in the center of the board, sandwiched in between. So something goes wrong in there.
Voltage plane.
Yeah, so something goes wrong in there, it does all sorts of shit you can't fix, right? So the boards aren't considered repairable. I've repaired one or two, but generally they're replacement module town. Problem is that sometimes it sends a massive spike to the amplifier in the process of blowing itself up. So it takes out your DSP, all of that kind of stuff. And as far as I know, there are no parts anywhere for these things. So they are not considered field repairable. I think Fender sends out a list to their repair centers of units that if they're under warranty, they just exchange the amp, no questions asked if it's failed. If it's out of warranty, they don't even manufacture spare parts. So
probably tell you to go to eBay.
So that's it. So that's
as you say, so you got a cabinet and a speaker that you can do something with.
I've got one down here.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So this is
disposable amps, man.
This is the amp. So that's the chassis. From the front, what sort of annoys me is they look legit. I had a customer come in that thought it was a tube amp. Yeah. I had to explain to him that it's not.
He's probably arguing with you that it was. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Well, look at it. It's like a classic Fender, right? So there's the ice power board. I think Sony won't focus on stuff unless I move it slowly. There we go. So yeah, that's had a big fire down here. And yeah, that's got multiple traces in the center of the board. Here's the brains of the operation. Looks like a mobile phone. So that's the essentially the computer.
I need to get glasses for this one.
Yeah, I'll just send them my view. Hang on.
Surface mount,
so that's the brains of the operation. You got the CPU in the center. You got some memory chips there. You got a couple of control chips. Whole lot of bypass caps down here, and some more memory on the other side. So you can't buy that part. You can buy these, but not from Fender. You got to buy them from Ice Power directly. They're about 300 Australian for a replacement. There's multiple power levels. You've got the pot board, which is just sends analog voltages back to the processor. It's got some local processing here, so that interprets the position of each pot. So there's no actual audio anywhere. It'd go directly into probably got a preamp and then a analog to digital converter, and then digital to analog converter just before it goes back to this board, which is the amplifier and power supply. So literally the only part you could get as a replacement part is this, and that's only because you can get it from somewhere other than Fender. So that's the state of play for the Fender Tone Master series at the moment.
And you can buy those ice boards when you buy them outside of Fender. They're the same. That's not a custom build for Fender, that ice board.
No, it's an off-the-shelfer. Yeah, you can buy the module directly from Ice Power or sometimes through a distributor.
What's the voltage?
The voltages depends on the model. So it's got auxiliary supplies which fail as well. But I think on the high power model, because they make 1,000-watt modules. This is what you find in the I think the Mesa Boogie bass heads. They've got a 1,000-watt version of this. I think Eden use them as well. A lot of manufacturers use them. Even Andy Fuchs uses them in his ODS or whatever it's called, his solid state head. Look, you can replace them. That's fine. Yeah, there you go. $20. Is that
But does it have the amplifier
an Amazon
built into
special
it as well?
Is that just a power supply?
AliExpress special. It's cheaper.
AliExpress.
But for like 300 volts and stuff, it's all right for a small
honestly, the biggest issue, because Dad actually went down this rabbit hole with the Class D modules. He bought a bunch off Amazon or eBay or whatever, and he sort of reverse engineered them. And he found the biggest place where they cut corners is the output filtering, because the output chokes are an expensive item. You can see here, those two there. But on the higher power amps, they're pretty chunky and they're pretty expensive. So they cut corners on the output filtering, and they don't have enough inductance on the output, so they fire off RFI everywhere in all directions. So they're not compliant. But they also love to burn out tweeters and stuff as a result, and cause all sorts of damage. But he got the cheap ones for like $20 and just put a proper inductor on it. It worked beautifully. Got to the expected power levels and all of that. But yeah, there's so many cheapies out there. But anyway, so that's the state of play for Fender Tone Masters. I just wish people sort of knew what they're in for when they bought one, because basically you're on your own once it fails out of warranty, which a lot of people are upset when they find that out, and they're often upset with me, even though I've got nothing to do with it.
Brad? I've got a friend.
That's the thing. They're like
the FR ones.
They're like $2,000, man.
Yeah, about 1,800 street price.
Yeah. So for that, you'd be expecting something to last more than about 3 or 4 years, you know.
Yep.
Well, this is going to be the fun part because the video that I've been working on for the last while and researching about Fender and Gibson and the PE companies and that behind them and what's happening kind of covers why this is happening now and why these companies are doing this and making their products disposable and also blowing up the range of how many products they offer, because a lot of people don't realize like these companies behind it and why they're not the brands that they used to be in the past, why there is no service documentation. I mean, Fender, you could always get documentation. You can go, hey, I want this, whatever. Cool, there you go. You want parts? There you go, sweet. But then all the new stuff started coming out and it just completely changed and it became literally outside of warranty. It goes in the bin. They will not support them at all. Like the Mustang GT series, literally no parts available.
They've just become appliances, haven't they?
Yeah, pretty much. And they're trying to condition people to buying a new
when you're
one
in
every
there,
3
when you're
years,
buying those things, it's just like, you buy a TV, microwave, and a tone master.
Well, it's kind of costly though.
It is.
It's
that's
not
the only
like
way
you're
they
buying
get
a
recurring
$500 item.
That's true.
Here it's the amp is 1,200 or something, 1,300.
Yeah, something like that.
For a twin Tone Master twin or whatever it is.
Yeah.
As I'm sure Lyle would back me up on this one. What you're buying is $2,000 for a modeler amp with one setting.
Yeah.
Why not just get any of the various, like even the Moore pedals?
As I say to everyone, just go buy a Helix. They are the best of all of them. They are like a decade in, they still update them, they still support them, there's service documentation, and they're not going to tell you need to buy a new one. The Mark III Part 2 XYZ Super Mega version before the Ultra version comes out after that. They just work. The parts are there. You can service them. I get elbow deep in them all the time. That's what I use for my stuff. They're good.
But there's no tube in that, and we won't get paid for it. So let's get all tube amps.
Hey, I get paid for fixing the Helixes. Thank you. I'm a Yamaha service agent.
Did I tell you about I uncovered a factory error in the Helix?
Yeah, you told us about the
I've got to do a video on it. But,
see,
basically the mic input,
I sent that off to them. Actually, I gave them a rundown of it, and that got sent off to Line 6 over there. They're going to look into it. So.
Oh, cool. No, it's good to know they will. I mean, I guess Yamaha is probably one of the companies that's more likely to do that.
Yamaha is the Toyota of musical instruments. Their shit is solid. They just make it to last, and they don't change parts if they don't have to. I've got a 24-year-old digital piano out there that's being repaired for a school that I can still get parts for. Why? Because the keybed and the jack and the parts are still the same as what they use on their current models. They do the same thing Mercedes used to do 40 years ago, where they'd take the high-end stuff, trickle it down through the range over the years as it got cheaper and it got sort of more basic. And that's what's brilliant about them. Huh?
It's not a Juno 106 then.
Well, no, Juno 106s, I've got two of them here for repair. I can still repair them because other people make parts. But Roland don't want anything to do with their old stuff. So everyone else has to do it. I mean, I can't even get screens for a model of theirs that they only discontinued 5 years ago, and every single one of them has failing screens.
Yeah. I had a 1993 Clavinova, and I thought, I'll just try it out. I'll send them an email, and my rep, not the sales representative from Yamaha Australia, the spare parts guy, is like, "Yep, we've got 20 of them in stock.
Ryan.
How many do you want?"
Yeah.
Like, okay, send one out, and it was about $20 for a sensor board. Very cheap.
They charge reasonable for the parts too, which is brilliant. Like for example, the Helix that I had to do recently, the main because he beat it up, all the rest of that, didn't have it screwed down, so everything was flapping around and it damaged the board. Whole new I/O board, which had some support DSP and all the rest of that on there, $230. Like, that's brilliant.
If only they made decent guitar amps.
They do. The Catalysts sound brilliant. The Catalysts sound brilliant.
I should shut up. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they're okay. The old, bear in mind, the tube ones, the Spider Valve and the Bogner ones were done under the ownership prior to Yamaha. They were trying to get into that hybrid market where the Fractal was just coming out and people plugging into amps and that. And they weren't great designs. That's why Yamaha, when they came on board, immediately shit-canned them because they were like, we can't fix them, we can't service them, we can't support them.
I've done a
That's
few of
why
the DT25s. What often happens, because they've got a very dangerous thing they do, but switching between cathode and fixed bias. So they use a relay to do it, which is controlled by the processor, because it's all, like MIDI controlled and whatever, microcontroller controlled. But the relays can't handle a current. So you're switching it while it's delivering signal from cathode to fixed bias. It just melts the contacts together. So all of a sudden, you've lost your bias supply because it thinks it's in cathode bias mode, but the cathode bias resistor is still not engaged. So straight away, you burn the output stage out. So yeah, if they just did it with a toggle switch, you'd get away with it. But because they use the two separate relays,
it's because everyone wants switchable
underrated.
things. It's like Mesa with their the Road Kings and that, and they're switching voltages at the plates and all the other things.
Oh yeah,
too much. Too much.
Even a rectifier, switching the high high voltage DC to the two EQs without blocking it with a cap. You realize if you just block it with a cap, it won't pop like it.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't have to have all these mutes.
The pop's part of the tone, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, if they just made a few design decisions, they wouldn't have that muting circuit at all. That's just
well, come on. Everyone knows that an amp, a really well-designed amp, should have at least 35 J175s in there, and they should be in really, really awkward places, not marked down correctly as to what they actually do, and should just be absolutely tortured, not made to be easily replaceable.
Now that they're obsolete.
Speaking of triaxes,
I bought the last stash from Tater. I bought like 1,500 of them because I know they're going out of production.
What are those? I checked all of the.
There's another
main
version of it
and
now.
They're still there. Yeah, they still exist.
Of
it's
the
just they've changed the J175s are still in production, but now there's a new code for them because they're J175 ROHS spec.
Okay. Because I tried finding them. Maybe they were just out of stock. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like the conversation we had the other day in the group where someone was saying about how they were frustrated they couldn't find the parts, and I'm like, they're here. It's just they're a slightly different code now because they ditched the old one, and now you've got two separate ones, ROHS and lead solder versions for different applications, and then you've got the SMD version on top of that as well.
They changed it to like MMBF something or other. I think.
That's the SOT 23 version.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to convert the boards to in the next revision. I'm going to go surface mount for the transistors, but that's
best way to do it.
Yeah. Oh, guys, do you want to start thinking about wrapping her up?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, I need
I got to go actually. So
yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone, including all the viewers. But yeah, it's great having a little chat. Let's
do the shout-outs. Everyone shout out their shit.
Relatively more often. But yeah, everyone knows Dave and what he does. So go over to Tone Talk.
Tone Talk or Friedman Amps or something.
Be sure to follow Tone Talk and hit the notification so you know when his live streams are coming up because they're fantastic. You'll often see me lurking in the chat. Same goes with Jace. He often... you're not doing many live streams anymore, Jace. You're just struggling for time. I guess.
No.
I'm doing once a month with Dave, Dan Gowler, and Shay. So we're doing one on next weekend, right, Dave?
Yeah. And then I have a Tone Talk on Friday, which is just an Ask Dave one.
Oh yeah, punish Dave with questions.
Punish me. Yes, punish me.
And Alex,
all the time, just reading.
You know, the funny thing is that the Ask Dave ones get as much views as a guest. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's so weird. I've seen a few, and I'm like, I expect it to blow up, and then just this, it just trickles in. Still goes through, but some of them you're like, he's interviewing an absolute legend. Why aren't more people paying attention? But I don't know. It's weird. Maybe you got to do those thumbnails, Dave, where you're like, oh, you won't believe what he told us. You know,
God,
he spills the beans. You know, like cat out of the bag. That kind of deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, follow Dr. Gear as well, everyone. If you haven't already, chances are you have, because Six and I go way back. And he's got a lot of very informative videos.
There's nothing in it.
Alex, I want you to. I'm going to send you to Serious Amps, and you can have a look at all these DIY bits and pieces, his effects loop boards and stuff. Same with Jace. He does the DIY modules at Evolve DIY. So yeah, get on it. There's a lot of good stuff out there, and it's getting better every year, I think.
And once I get back from overseas and that, Brad and I are going to team up some stuff and do some more sort of like, team up type streams and that, and chatting with people and doing various things and whatnot. And going to do an interesting one where we're to kind of like show what we were discussing earlier about like how people who know how these things works will design similar things, albeit in kind of different ways. We're going to have a PCB off where we both work off of the same schematic within the same constraints, and we're going to design PCBs on stream and see how similar they are and just how we took different ways and how they might just be different.
We're going to race each other.
A PCB off. Yeah, that is riveting.
Because we were thinking to ourselves, what's like gaming, but even nerdier? Well, we could do deathmatch PCB design.
You could do, what do they do? You could do the speed run thing in gaming, you know, like
speed run, yeah.
Speed run PCB.
That one will let the smoke out. But yeah, even like KiCad tutorials now, I'm getting better at it. I'm by no means an expert, but I could show just basic library management, that kind of thing, to get people using PCBs instead of just sticking to the card boards and stuff.
How articulate the PCB design has to be for however long you're going to be on stream.
We'd be talking like a pedal. Like a fuzz pedal or something. Yeah. We're not doing like a multi-channel.
No. It has to be
a multi-channel amp. You could be on there for a week.
It has to be a 4-channel 5-gain stage amp. Come on.
See you in a month. Yeah.
And it's going to have switchable this and switchable that, and it's going to be MIDI controlled. And
you could do it all from scratch.
If someone else was paying my rent, I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
It's all right, just get enough people watching and enough people throwing super chats and you'll be able to.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, thanks everyone.
All right, guys.
Go and enjoy your weekend or what's left of it. And see you on the next one. Bloody legends.
See you around.
Later.
Peace out.
Guys. Bye.